Stillman and Company, 102.5, 106.3 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. And we are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. Ian is here today. Hello, Ian.
What up, what up?
We got a big game tonight. By the way, TD will join us at 2:30 for an early TD Power Hour. So we've got 30 minutes, and then TD will join us for the Power Hour. And I'm going to ask TD who he thinks should be the Titans quarterback next year and who he thinks will be the Titans quarterback next year. But we got a big hockey game tonight. It's the big game. Now, I don't know why ESPN doesn't seem to want to put it on ABC. They've decided they're going to put it on ESPN today, which I think is ridiculous. I think it should be on ABC. I think it would be in the best interest of the league if the game was on ABC. And I certainly think it would be in the best interest of ABC if the game was on ABC. By the way, I do have the lineup in front of me. No disrespect to News 2, which I love greatly. But I do wish that this game was on News 2. At 7 o'clock, according to my Google search, at 7 o'clock, News 2 will be running the 6 p.m. news. At 7:30, Wheel of Fortune, National Geographic Lindblad Expectations will be on, whatever that means. 8 o'clock, Extreme Makeover Home Edition. 9 o'clock, Scamanda Stage 4, Catch Me If You Have Cancer. That will be on ABC today instead of the Four Nations hockey game, which, again, ABC, ESPN, Disney, I think it's atrocious. But I do want to start on the actual game itself. I am scared to death of Canada tonight. And some of this is our own doing. Some of this is because of Canada's talent. And some of this is because of what's happened Saturday night. And let me throw one extra one in there. Some of this may be because what I think is going to happen. And if I were the Americans and I were the Americans coaches and the GMs and the players, I would beg the fans at TD Garden, do not do this. So number one, I am scared to death of Canada tonight because Canada has some super high-end talent. I heard the midday show, Willie talking about it on his way out, saying if you get in the box tonight, they're going to run out there Nathan McKinnon, and they're going to run out there Sidney Crosby, and they're going to run out there Connor McDavid, and they're going to run out Cale Makar, and there's really nothing you can do about it. The fact that the Americans, held so tightly Saturday night was a good sign. But also, Canada has been tweaking things out. They now know what your first punch is. And I just don't want to go to the box against that group. It's like going to the box in that playoff series against Colorado a couple years ago. You go to the box against them, you're dead. So the high-end talent for Canada. Canada has Brad Marchand playing on their fourth line. Like, that's how deep Canada is. Now, that doesn't solve Canada's goaltending issue, which is well documented. And if there's anything I find solace in tonight, it's that. But I am scared to death of Canada's high-end talent. That's the first thing. Number two, I am scared to death of kind of the difference of what this game means for each side. Like what this means for Canada. This is what they have on us. Like, this is it. Hockey. I am a big fan of Canada. As many of you know, my son is half Canadian. But it's not like there's really anything in Canada that is so great that the United States is not better at, for the most part, than Canada. We have better taxes. We have better mortgage. We have better financial institutions, a larger GDP. We're a bigger country. We're a richer country. We're a more powerful country. We're all these things better than Canada. I think you could argue Canada might be a little bit more cultured than us, but that's okay. And we have better weather than Canada. We have better resorts than Canada. We have a better dollar than Canada. I mean, we just bettered everything except hockey. Is there any sport, Ian, off the top of your head, except for hockey, is there any sport in the Olympics, the Paralympics, the Goodwill Games, the whatever, in which you would expect Canada, man for man, to beat the United States, other than hockey?
Well, I mean, some Olympic sports probably. Maybe like.
But do you know one off the top of your head?
Sure. Skating, curling, skiing, that kind of stuff.
Are they better than us at skiing?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But you don't know that.
No.
Are they better than us at ice skating?
I'm not sure.
I mean, look, Michelle Kwan and Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. And I'm kind of at that point, that's kind of my knowledge of figure skating. But you see what I'm saying? I remember the first year that they had the World Baseball Classic in 2006, the Americans lost to Canada, and it was a national embarrassment. And again, the World Baseball Classic is like a spring training exhibition, international friendly, everything that I think people were tepid going into this Four Nations tournament about what this would be for the NHL. Like, that's what the baseball version of this is. And we lost to Canada, and that was a national embarrassment because we should be better than Canada at baseball. It's like when we lost to Puerto Rico in the Olympics in basketball. That's embarrassing. Now, it's not the end of the world for Canada to lose the United States, but they don't do it very often, especially in gold medal games. I mean, we did beat them in 2010 in Vancouver, only for them to beat us in the gold medal game. So, like, for those guys, McDavid and Crosby and that crew, like, there is a sense of national pride that they would be letting their country down if they lose tonight. If America loses tonight, we as a country, because again, we're not viewed as the sovereign hockey nation, we would probably get up and clap on our boys and say, good tournament, you tried hard, okay, let's move on with our lives. The way that we've done everything. Joe just texted Ian and I and said, dude just said Tanya Harding. I did say, what's wrong with Tanya Harding?
I mean, I don't think she's known for being as a great figure skater, though.
I mean, I know she did it. Like, I just, for whatever that's worth. But again, so that scares me. Like, this means a lot to Canada. Third, guys, I'm not here to get political. I'm not Bill O'Reilly. I'm not Bill Maher. You know that. But we've been talking a lot of crap about Canada. And Canada's kind of tired of it. And they don't like being called the 51st state. They don't like, the idea of the United States one day annexing their country. I don't think I'd like that either. And so with all the mocking of Canada that has gone on over the last, 6 months or whatever it is, I'm worried that adds some juice to Canada. And that takes me to the last thing, which is do not boo the anthem tonight, people of Boston. Which, again, this was, 2 weeks ago, Ian? We were on live in Boston. But, people of Boston, do not boo the anthem. Because I think it will give Canada extra juice if you boo their anthem the same way that it gave you extra juice Saturday night when they booed your anthem. I am worried about that. Like the Kachuk brothers, it's hilarious because people are talking about these fights the other night like, oh, it was so preordained and it was terrible. And Mad Dog Russo called it WWE. And I'm like, that's not what happened. What happened was the Kachuk brothers were like, nobody boos our flag. And they threw down the gloves. That's what it was. They wouldn't say it because they know that if they said it, it would blow up. But that's what happened. And I think Team USA played with a fire under their tush the other night, whether it was based off the fighting, which I think was based off the booing, or whether it was just based off the booing in general. That does bother me. So don't boo their anthem. Stop. I mean, again, we've made a lot of fun of Canada. And I said this after the game on Saturday night. When the Barstool Sports of the world were tweeting out memes and the ha-ha in Canada. And I'm like, dude, you won the battle. You have not won the war. Tonight is the war. And I am scared to death of Canada. I am scared to death the Americans are going to lose tonight. And not only that, I kind of worry that America fired their best shot on Saturday night and that Canada's got something left in the chamber. And so that makes me nervous as well. Between that and apparently the ghost of Tanya Harding, although I think she's still alive, whatever it may be, has me. I am equally as excited for the game tonight as I am nervous that we have awoken the sleeping giant in Canada, and you're going to get their best shot. And I don't know what the high-end talent they have outside of the fact that Jordan Bennington, whom I like a lot, Jordan Bennington might not be very good. Outside of that, I don't really know what I'm hanging my hat on tonight. Other than, hey, maybe just get a good bounce here, play a tough physical game there, that kind of stuff. But I am scared to death of Canada. And I will be the loudest to celebrate. I will be the happiest in the world tomorrow if we're talking about a Four Nations championship to be doing the USA, USA, USA fist pump. I'll be the happiest in the world to do it. But at the same time, I'll be the first to admit, yeah, I was nervous as hell last night because that's how I feel. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you want to weigh in. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on the Four Nations game, TD at 2:30. And coming up next, there is one element of this that I'm not sure exactly what this will mean going forward. We'll get to that coming up next. 615-737-1025 here on our program. Tune in to 94.9 The Fan tonight for Vandy women's basketball as the Commodores take on Oklahoma. 6 o'clock tip-off, pregame at 5:45. Vandy women's basketball presented by Athletes Unlimited Pro Basketball coming to Nashville's Municipal Auditorium now through March 2nd. Go to auprobasketball.com for more details and to purchase tickets. And tune into 93.3 Totally Hits Nashville tonight for MTSU men's basketball. The Blue Raiders will take on Louisiana Tech at the Murphy Center. Tip-off at 8 o'clock. The pregame starts at 7:30. Coverage also available on the Totally Hits Nashville app and at totallyhitsnashville.com.
When that game ended and you guys start taking stock of everybody talking about it, especially in comparison to the way people negatively reacted to the NBA's All-Star game, walk me through the way you guys processed the success off of that game in this tournament.
Well, in terms of my thinking, the NBA doesn't enter the equation. I worry about what we're doing and how well what we're doing is received. We immediately, I heard from my people who monitor social media that we were the #1 trending thing worldwide. It's 12 seconds into the game. But what was clear is, and you had seen it in the preliminary games as well, our players were playing to play. Hockey players are like that, even if they're playing shinny on a pond. They love playing the game. They love going all out. And again, this ability to now again represent their countries. And remember, the teams are incredibly stocked with the world's best hockey players from those countries. Obviously, we had some players among the best in the world whose countries weren't yet participating for a whole host of reasons, logistics and other political things beyond our control. But we knew right on that this was going to be something that was going to demonstrate hockey in an extremely positive and entertaining light.
Can we get Gary Bettman a better mic, Ian? Like, it's 2025.
He's got that Zoom.
You can get a better mic on Zoom. Like, we can, Robbie and Joe been on Zoom for the last 3 days, and they sound great. Can we get Gary Bettman a better mic? He's the commissioner of the NHL. Can we get him a better microphone? That's all I ask. So I do wonder aloud something when it comes to tonight's game, because I don't know what the TV number is going to be. I'm going to guess 6 million. If it was on ABC, I think I'd put it in the 9 million range, but they have to show Extreme Home Makeover, whatever. And that Wheel of Fortune, National Geographic. So if it were in that neighborhood, I'd say 9 million would be my expectation on ABC. On ESPN, I'll put it at 6 million, which is incredible for hockey. That's great for hockey. Not exactly an apples to apples comparison to, say, a Western Conference final game between the Edmonton Oilers and the Dallas Stars. But still, at the same time, it's hockey. I do wonder how much this grows the game. Does it grow the game? Is it just hey, Americans will care about hockey when the Olympics are on and the real players play, and Americans will care about hockey when it's the Four Nations and the real players play, and if you go best on best, we'll care. But other than that, hockey is what it is, because hockey is, no doubt, fourth when it comes to American pro sports. And while hockey doesn't have the negative press that baseball and basketball have. Baseball has had negative press about the game for 25 years. Their ratings are almost the same as basketball, which has had negative press for one weekend. And then you get bozos like Joe on Jared versus Joe yesterday being like, go to the game and you tell me if those NBA players care. By the way, Victor Wembanyama out for the year. But I do wonder, these people that don't care about hockey, but love America. I happen to love America and do care about hockey. But I do wonder, are these people in Kansas that are going to flip on the game tonight? Because what the hell else is on tonight? Again, National Geographic Wheel of Fortune is on tonight. So are these people in Kansas and Atlanta, Georgia, and Houston, Texas, and West Virginia, and wherever, where there's not really a team? Are these people now, if we win tonight, are they going to say, you know what? Put on game 3 of the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. We got the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild. Let's go, baby. Are they going to do that? Or is it I'll watch when America plays, and that it won't grow the sport, and hockey's going to have to either expand with more teams or just kind of get more juice in general? And I don't know the answer to that. But I do think it's going to get a big number. I do think it's going to dominate, the talk. I think more people will really, truly tune into this game than they would a Western Conference final basketball game, even though, again, all the basketball heads would never admit to that. But I'm not sure if this grows the game or doesn't. As a hockey fan, I am very hopeful that it does, because I find hockey to be incredibly undervalued in this country. When I see that the Stanley Cup final, for Game 7 is getting 7 million viewers, and that the World Series, when it's the Phillies, is getting 15, I'm like, hockey could do a little bit better. Like, I wish I could talk it more on Sirius XM. I wish it was talked more on ESPN. So I'm rooting for this. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, we have TD coming up in about 7 minutes. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. One texter says, if they beat Connor Hellebuck 3 times, it is over for Team USA. Agreed. Again, the only advantage that America has is in net. When it comes to forward play, I'm going to go with Canada. When it comes to defense, with Charlie McAvoy out and with Cale Makar back in, I'm going to go Canada. So you'll spell defense D-E-F-E-N-C-E, because we have to side with them. When it comes to coaching, I think it's kind of even. I would probably lean, if I had to pick Cooper or Sullivan, I would pick Cooper, but I'll go even. Goaltending, America. That's it. One text says, Tanya Harding is the only skater to ever land the triple axel. You go, Jared. Jim says 1992 called and they want your knowledge of figure skating returned. I texted Joe when he said, dude said Tanya Harding with a question mark. And I said, wait, I can't claim Tanya Harding is like a great American figure skater. Like O.J. Simpson, terrible person, great running back. It is okay. One text says, Canada's anthem is getting booed. Mark it down. Let me just say this. If I was ESPN, these debate shows, and maybe they learned their lesson from Colin Kaepernick, but if I was ESPN, wouldn't this be like one of the main discussion points on the show? Like all the shows they have, like Mike Greenberg with the panel. All right, should the Americans boo the Canadian anthem? Damian Woody, your thoughts? Rex Ryan, should they boo the anthem? Shouldn't that be like a big discussion here? I'd be playing that up if I was ESPN. By the way, I would make sure I show the anthem tonight, and I do agree with the texter. I think we're going to boo their anthem. And let me just say this. Like, I don't think it helps you win. If anything, I think it hurts you. Don't get Crosby and McKinnon and McDavid and Makar. Don't get them more fired up for tonight's game. But these people, they just can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves. Canada boos the United States because of the tariffs and things that the president said. And so the Canadians boo the anthem, which, again, I don't like it, but it's not something that really keeps me up at night. And then there's going to be people in the crowd that are like, they booed our anthem, I'm going to boo their anthem. And that I just don't like. One texter says, you don't have to be political to acknowledge that the United States provoked its ally Canada by saying they would make a fine 51st state. Yeah, I mean, again, this is going to sound crazy. Put the politics stuff aside for a second. It's not helping us win. When I talk about distractions and people say, Jared, you can't be mad at that guy for what he said on Instagram. I'm like, is it helping us win? And so when it comes to booing the Canadian anthem or making fun of them and calling them the 51st state and all, does it help us win? One texter says, do you find it as weird as I do to be rooting for the Tkachuk brothers? I absolutely hate them during the regular season when the Preds play them, but I have fallen in love with them and hate that I'm going to have to hate them in a week when the regular season gets back going. I have no opinion on the Tkachuk brothers. I have no positive, negative, none of it. I do not like them, do not hate them, do not feel anything for them. I hope they win tonight. Okay, TD is in for the Power Hour. He will join us next. The question for TD: who should the Titans quarterback be? And who does he think it will be? We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 102.5 The Game.
Tennessee Titans first pick. I was talking to some folks around the league and trying to canvas just like your opinions, guys who know people in the decision-making process there, and not with direct information, but the same theme kept coming up over and over and over again, which was, this is new. You know, a lot of times we hear new regime accompanied with a new quarterback, but this was the feedback I was like, look, we're not completely sold slam dunk quarterbacks here in this draft, which has been pretty universal across the board. Right. They're going to have time. They're going to get time to eventually get their quarterback. And with a plethora of needs, like, do you really want to look back and say your first pick you had to replace a year later or 2 years later? Like, let's just park one in the fairway here. Let's just get the best player available, and then they can, hunt for a quarterback in the next couple of years. But they're where they are in their process. That was the feedback. So, boom, I pump in Abdul Carter.
That was Daniel Jeremiah, his mock draft at NFL.com. He has Abdul Carter, number 1 overall to the Titans. TD is with us for the TD Power Hour, an early edition of the TD Power Hour. TD, can I tell the folks where you'll be tonight?
Yeah, no doubt, man. Support our women's hoops, man.
TD will be at the AU basketball game, AU Pro basketball game tonight, Athletes Unlimited. And you know what, TD? We have a 4-pack to give away. Let's do that right now. Be caller 5 at 615-737-1025, and you'll win a family 4-pack of tickets to the Athletes Unlimited professional basketball games at Municipal Auditorium this Sunday. Tip-off at 4:30. Stars playing include Alicia Clark, Sydney Colson, Lexi Brown, Isabel Harrison, Asia Taylor, Jude Schimmel, and more. Okay, TD, I'm putting you on the spot, if I may.
Sure.
As of today, February 20th, 2025, who do you think the Titans quarterback 1 should be, and 2, who do you think it will be?
I think it should be Shedeur Sanders, but I think, the more and more I look into this, there's a real chance Sam Darnold ends up here. There's a real chance. Make of it what you want. I know, you're over there getting a little excited, but I think there's a chance. And I mean, if you look at it, I understand if they did it, but it's a very risky move if they were. So Shedeur Sanders, Sam Darnold.
Okay, so let me ask a follow-up on the Darnold one here, because I as you noticed, I did not speak and did not get excited as you said that, which I was a little surprised by, but I didn't, because I'm probably going to cut that and use it again later this week.
Wow.
So I do wonder this. Is that just based off of what you're hearing, feeling, sensing? Where's that coming from?
A combination of sensing and hearing. So there's a good chance, but I'm really curious if they are going to be willing to, I don't want to say a bidding war, but if they are going to be willing to compete with the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to go after him also, but just looking at things, like, I wouldn't be surprised if the Raiders make a hard push for Shedeur also. So it's just really so many pieces, because now you mentioned Shedeur, and then all of a sudden the Giants. I know personally from watching Brian Daboll, the way he chased Shedeur around at the 2 practices at Shrine Week, and how he grabbed him and they ducked into a side room and had a meeting. The Giants are very much in the mix too. So there's a lot of interlocking pieces. So it's going to be cool watching it all play out.
So I do wonder on the Darnold front, TD, what do you think about the tag in Minnesota? I mean, I went to the Super Bowl and I walked away thinking he wasn't getting tagged. Now it sounds like he may get tagged. I talked to somebody who covers the Vikings who told me they're not a leaky organization and nobody in Minnesota seems to know what they're going to do one way or another. And I've talked about trading the 35th pick for Darnold. I did have another thought, though, because every time I say that, people look at me like I'm crazy. What about the 2 fourth-rounders? Minnesota, if they let Darnold leave as a free agent, they get a comp pick in the 3rd round next year. So whatever you give them would have to be better than that. They don't have a lot of picks in this year's draft because they've traded them to get the 2 first-rounders last year. Would that be something where the Titans don't give up the premium top 100 pick at 35, but they do give the volume of picks, the 2 fourth-rounders, to Minnesota in order to work Darnold on the tag? And what do you think about Darnold and the tag?
Well, I wouldn't be one to tag him if I were the Vikings. I don't know their money situation, and of course, the whole what you would call make believe cap has increased greatly. So there is space to. It's I don't know. I personally wouldn't give up picks to get Sam Darnold. I mean, look, like I'm just coming around on being someone who would let you could sign him to a contract. But even the contract itself, I'm not giving him $35-40 million a year. I'm sorry. I just wouldn't do that.
What do you think he would get then? Like if Baker was 33 a year, what do you think is like a fair value price for Darnold?
I would say 30 to 35. And it's just like, even with that, like, I mean, Baker lucked out. And I think it was a little bit different with Baker Mayfield's case because this is a guy who showed that he could ball in your scheme, right? In your system. Yeah, Sam. And look, let's not get it twisted. Baker had a really good year going before he got hurt. And remember, he and the Browns came in here and they smoked the Titans. If you remember that. I was at 2020, I think it was. Or
yeah, I never understood why Cleveland was so quick to get rid of Baker.
Yeah,
but clearly he was hurt the year after he was good.
It just, and now look at them. They're in QB purgatory. So here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. And this is why, like, from when we talk, not on the air, but when we talk, sometimes Titans fans, they could really irk me. They really can. But there's other times where, like, I really enjoy interacting with them. So one of the Titans fans, Adam Johnston Bowers, we sat down and we talked, and we talk a lot about ball. And he made an awesome parallel between Sam Darnold and Alex Smith. And we know Alex Smith, that was the situation with Mike Bergonzi, Brett Veach, Andy Reid with the Chiefs. They said, hey, we got the number 1 pick. We're going to go ahead and trade. We know Alex Smith is on the way out from the 49ers. 2nd round pick. Let's take him. We'll sign him. He'll be our guy. We're going to go 1st round pick. Number 1 overall, Eric Fisher. But Adam drew the parallel to Sam Darnold, both 27 years old, both former high draft picks. And when he said that, I was like, this is actually a really good point. Now, Alex Smith had a pretty solid year up until he got hurt. He had the concussion against the Rams. I think it was like in week 12 or something like that. But nevertheless, it was a really good parallel. And I could see the Titans doing something like that, bringing Darnold in and then having him be their guy for 2-3 years. And then in year 4, entering year 4, you decide, okay, can we go further with him, or do we need to elevate and get someone who has a higher ceiling? And then at that point, you trade in, you do what you got to do to go get your guy, and hopefully there'll be an outstanding prospect for them to trade up to get. That's what the Chiefs did, right? When they traded up to 10 to grab Patrick Mahomes. And it was a great parallel that he made. So kudos to Adam Johnston Bowers.
Have you seen the stats between the first 7 years of their careers between Darnold and Alex Smith?
I haven't, but I mean, situations are always, things that you have to look at. I know Alex Smith was in a prehistoric. I mean, they were watching Roman Gabriel and Eric Dickerson, with Jimmy Ray at one point, because his offense was that offense. Then you had Mike Martz, and then you had some tough offenses.
Adam Gase is a pretty big bozo, and
no, without a doubt, But I'm just saying,
like their stats, like, so Alex Smith 38, 36, and 1, so 2 games over 500. Darnold 35, 38, so 3 games under 500, which in the grand scheme of things isn't that big. Completion percentage 59 for Alex, 61 for Sam. QB rating, Sam 83, Alex 79. Like, the touchdowns are similar, the interceptions are similar. Like, it's very, very similar to what Kansas City traded for in a weak draft in 2013 when it wasn't a good quarterback draft with E.J. Manuel and Geno Smith. And the other thing that when it comes to this Darnold parallel, TD, is Mike Borgonzi talks about the Chiefs every opportunity that he gets And like, it's obvious to me, he wants to build the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And this would be doing it the Chief way.
Yeah. And Jared, it goes back to, I had a conversation with him at the Senior Bowl, and I asked him straight up, I said, are you the type where, and I think we've gone over this before, do you like to build the team and then drop the quarterback in? Or do you want to drop the quarterback in and build a team around them? And he said straight up, like, we want to build from the trenches out. Make no mistake about it. We want to, build, and then we add the quarterback. But if there's a quarterback we like, of course he had to table it with that. You know what I mean? We're going to take him. So I think when you look at that, and I mean, that being said, Sam Darnold could be a quarterback that they like. He's in their mind ready-made, and they build around him. That's always something, or you know what I mean, that could happen as well. And that's what they did with the Chiefs back in when they acquired Alex Smith.
I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Jason Fitz yesterday, which was, if you had to take Sam Darnold right now after the year he had last year in Minnesota, or Ryan Tannehill after the year that he had in 2019 when he got a contract and he had been playing with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown and Arthur Smith, and they'd gone to the
say
AFC
no
title
more.
game.
I'm taking Tannehill. Tannehill was cold. Tannehill was ice cold. I know he had the Bengals game, but other than that, Tannehill was cold, man. He was a killer. And he wasn't somebody where he got a body shot, he would take some punches and then he'll uppercut you and the fight's over. And that's what he did. Like, think about, he didn't throw a lot of passes or throw for 350, 300 yards, but he'll give you a good 225 to 250 on 18 to 20 completions with 3 touchdowns. And 2 of them will be bombs. I'll take that.
I always said that Ryan Tannehill's legacy as the Titans quarterback would be defined by who follows him. And at that point, I miss Ryan Tannehill as the Titans quarterback. Whereas if Will Levis had become like the next Josh Allen, it'd be like, yeah, Tannehill was a nice quarterback, but this guy, more with TD coming up next, including if, let's say it is Darnold, then what about the first pick? And what about the buzz surrounding Abdul Carter? We'll get TD's thoughts on that next. 615-737-1025. We'll hear phones at 3:15 for TD. As always, Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game. You have Abdul Carter at 1-1. In order to move, what would it take to get you to move off Abdul Carter?
I don't mind future first round picks and even future second round picks, because this is a team, the Titans, that needs a whole lot of players. They're not going to restock their team and make a Super Bowl run in 2025. It's not going to happen. And so I wouldn't mind having the patience, but that's what it would take, because again, when you talk about picks, you're talking about players. And this is a team that doesn't just need guys. Okay, so at linebacker, I got a guy. He's okay. He's an average NFL player. No, this is a team that is largely bereft of game-changing playmakers. And it's difficult to find those guys farther down in the draft. Now, you do find those guys farther down in the draft, but you're more likely to find them higher in the draft.
That was Trevor on our program saying, hey, it'd take me quite a bit to move off of Abdul Carter at 1-1. TD, you brought up the idea that maybe a little, trying to think of the right way to say this, hypothesizing that the Titans might be in on Sam Darnold, while also maybe hearing a little bit that the Titans may be interested in Sam Darnold. Let's say they sign Darnold in free agency. Just straight up, Vikings don't tag him. Sam Darnold, my contract's 4 years, 164 with 80 guaranteed. What do you make of the first pick now that quarterback's out of the way and there's Carter and Hunter sitting there, and perhaps a lot of teams may be looking to trade up, some teams looking to trade up, I don't know. What do you make of that first pick and where Carter and Hunter sit? Yeah,
so if quarterback's out of the way, I think Carter is the pick. I think he would be the pick. I know of 3 different people in that building that really like him. So that's the way I would look at that. And then if you just look at the hierarchy of positions, right? And I think the Eagles game, it showed you the importance of a pass rush. It showed you the importance of being able to impact the quarterback. It showed you the importance of being able to speed everything up. So to me, it goes quarterback, pass rusher, or pass protector, then playmaker, right? And that being said, with Shador's out of the way, but with Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter being on the same wavelength, right? As far as like prospect, you can't go wrong with either one of them. I'm looking at the position that would be more impactful and higher on the hierarchy, and that's why I would say Abdul Carter.
When it comes to Hunter, I know we've talked about wanting to play him both ways and, of course, using him as a punt returner and a primary receiver and things like that. I do wonder what exactly, like, who does he remind you of as a receiver? Because if I take Carter over Hunter, I want to know kind of what type of receiver I'm passing on if I wanted to put Hunter at receiver.
Yeah, I can't really think of anybody in particular, excuse me, that he reminds me of. I just know he's a playmaker, and he's elite when he gets the ball in his hands. He doesn't remind me of Percy Harvin or Cordero Patterson. I'm not saying that, but that's the way I would use him in that, or even like a Devin Hester, where it's just like, okay, you don't really have a set position. I'm just going to find ways to get you the football, and I want you to make something happen. And literally every single thing that resembles a return, you're going to be on the field doing it. That's the way I would have Travis Hunter used.
Now, what would it take you to trade off of Abdul Carter? Because, I asked Thomas Dimitrov at the Super Bowl. He said he thinks a trade back's important, but if there's not, if teams don't view the quarterbacks as elite quarterbacks, the returns won't be the same as traditionally speaking.
Yeah. And here's the thing, Trevor said it very well, and he used the SAT word, bereft. It is bereft of talent when you talk about this roster, as far as like top level talent. I mean, if you think of, if you say, okay, who are the premier players on the Titans? Normally you would say L'Jarius Sneed, but we don't know what L'Jarius Sneed this team is going to be getting. So if you ask premier players on the Titans, one guy comes into the conversation, and this is Jeffrey Simmons. And I know that there's a lot of Titans fans included who say, hey, I don't know if he's a premier player. So that being said, yeah, the quantity is nice, but the quality is nicer. And to me, Abdul Carter, it's Abdul. You saw the way he wrecked the Notre Dame game. And this is a guy who did it with one arm. So it's Abdul Carter and then others when you're talking about pass rushers. And when you're talking about prospects overall, like impact players, Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, and then others.
For me, it would take a first-round pick in next year's draft.
At the very least.
Like I saw your colleague Jordan Renan at ESPN, who covers the Giants. Did you see his poll?
Yeah, oh
in
yeah, I
which he
saw the
asked
poll. I
about
retweeted it, and it's like, don't shoot the messenger, folks.
It was 2 third-round picks, a third this year and a third next year to move from 1 to 3, which is not very good value as far as the chart is concerned. But I don't think I could move off of Abdul Carter for that little in return.
No,
I think I could do it if it was just 3 and 1 next year. I think I could do it, but I don't think I can do it for 2/3. Given, to your point, just how many lack of impact players are already on this team.
yeah, exactly, and that's why it would take a lot to come off it. Because yeah, it's nice to have a bunch of good players, but you need a couple great players to elevate that overall good to great.
Do you believe what it seems like a lot of the chatter is, which is, again, put the quarterbacks to the side, that there are 2 great players in this draft, Carter, or 2 elite level prospects that aren't quarterbacks, Carter and Hunter, and then it's everybody else? Or would you throw anybody else in that group with those 2?
No, I mean, that's essentially what I said. You know, that it is when you come to premier impact players, you got Carter, you got Hunter, and then, you know, you got the rest of the group. And that's not to say, you know, the other guys, you know, Michael Williams. I think you got to look at Starks from Georgia. That safety is going to be a problem in the league. You look at, you know, Ted McMillan is intriguing. I'm still high on Luther Burden III. You know, I think Matthew Golden, if he makes it to the second round, you know, the top of that is good. Mecca Ibuka. There's impact players, but it's just different when you're talking about those guys and you're talking about Abdul Carter.
What do you think of Matt Miller comparing Tyler Warren, the tight end at Penn State, to Gronk?
All right. Did he do that as far as play style, or was he talk like that's the thing? I don't know how he does player comps. I know how he, myself, Jordan Reed, Matt Bowen, and there's like 3 others. We all do a comp, like our best comp, our favorite comp for this year. You know, if anything, Tyler Warren, to me, his play style reminds me of Dallas Clark. But, you know, that's just me. You know, there's different people have different opinions. But when I do comps, I do play style. Like, and I try to make it clear, like, look, man, I'm not saying he's going to be the next so-and-so. So I don't know what perspective Matt was coming from.
Let me say this. And Dallas Clark was a good player, you
Really
know, in
good
his
player.
day. There is a big difference between Dallas Clark and Gronk in terms of the way they play. TD with us on the program. Now, we haven't talked really much about free agency, both unrestricted free agency, who may end up getting out there, and then, of course, decisions the Titans have to make about their own roster. We'll do that with TD coming up next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, and presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. TD with us for the TD Power Hour. TD's got a great piece up right now at ESPN.com analyzing the holes that the Titans need to get filled. And while the talk around here is draft, free agency actually does come before the draft. And right now, teams are doing spring cleaning on their own roster. So, TD, let's talk a little free agency. And let's talk about the guys that are on the team right now that the Titans have, as far as Dylan Radins, Nick Westbrook-Akine, Nick Folk, the kicker, other guys, and kind of where you see the Titans in free agency after the Titans' new-ish brass has kind of badmouthed free agency after free agency didn't go to plan last year.
Yeah, I think there's going to be selective additions that can be made. But when you look at this roster, it's funny. So we have 32 for 32 assignments where each of us, we have to submit an entry. And we had one today or yesterday that posted. But before that, there was one on the franchise tag. And they're like, my editor sent me a text and he was like, I need your entry on the franchise tag. And I'm like, are you serious? you need what? So I was like, there is nobody, you know what I mean? And that's really another testament to how this roster is bereft of I love that word. Thanks. I appreciate Todd for giving me that one. But it's bereft of top level talent, and not having a franchise tag like a candidate for that is a good example. But I think there are players that, like Nick Westbrook-Akine, I think it would be important to bring him back. At what price, though, is the thing. But a guy that he's an excellent example of the draft, develop, retain. I know he's an undrafted free agent, but he was developed immensely from a guy who, was having physical confrontations with the football to a guy who led the team in receiving touchdowns. And I think that is tremendous. So he's a guy you want to retain. Sebastian Joseph Day is another one that you want to retain, but at a cost, at a good price. I think a very, very two underrated free agents that you really should bring back. Justin Hardy. Did you notice the way the special teams changed once he came here? He came after the Detroit debacle.
Yes. Special teams was still bad against the Texans.
It was still bad. Yeah. It wasn't perfect. But, it
wasn't Khalif Raymond running up and down the field like the Detroit game.
It wasn't a disaster. It turned into just a thunderstorm from a disaster, right? So I think he's a guy you want to retain. Luke Gifford as well is another one that you want to retain. After that, though, it kind of Dylan Radins is kind of give or take. If you bring in Trey Smith, he's one of those, I think, selective free agents. You go out and you spend the money on him, and he could be like one of your premier acquisitions and come in and shore up an area. You said you invest in the trenches and you want to build from there. That's a guy that you could definitely look at signing. And then another one, and you know what? It seems like every single year we mention this guy, Jared, you and I specifically. Good old Morgan Moses.
Mm-hmm.
He's 30. He'll be 34 years old. He's not going to be expensive. He will come in and hold that right side of your offensive line down. Now you sign Morgan Moses, you sign Trey Smith. The right side all of a sudden is like, okay, we're cooking with a little something. And now the offensive line is good. So whoever you put behind that offensive line is going to be in good shape as far as quarterback is concerned. You got your playmaking running backs in Pollard and Tajay Spears. You have to figure out what you're going to do with the receiver position. But I firmly believe if you sign 2 offensive linemen, I wouldn't be opposed to drafting 2 receivers. Like you get a guy like Ibuka, Matthew Golden, at 35, then you come back with one of your 2 fourths, Savion Williams, TCU. Now that gives you your X receiver. You know what I mean? Like there's things you could do to boost this roster up quickly. You can't forget about the safety position. Like there's a lot that has to be added, and I think safety is a severely undernoted area for major improvement, right? If you're not going to sign Quadre Diggs, which is not likely, then you got to find somebody to run with Amani Hooker. And not only run with him, but we know Amani Hooker, I mean, 17 games over the last 3 seasons he's missed. When he's healthy and on the field, he's really good. But availability is also an important ability, and that has been a bit limited for him. So safety is a position no one's talking about. Kicker, look, what do you call him? Little leg? That
Mini
little
leg.
Mini leg, that mini leg, made 95% of his field goals. You know what I mean? So he was 6 for 6 from 50 yards out. So, I mean, do you bring him back for another year, or do you figure out what you're going to do kicker wise? So, I mean, there's a lot that they have to do. And that's just to the point of how many holes there are on this roster.
TD, I may stroke out if they sign Trey Smith.
Really?
Like, that's the one. Yeah, I hear a lot of fans. Well, first of all, you know how this is. Like, it's weird with the fan base, and I get it because, a lot of Titan fans are UT fans. So when it comes to a UT person, especially our morning show, and I love them, but especially our morning show, they want to sign the whole UT team onto the Titans.
I'll be talking to them tomorrow, so we'll see if they bring that up.
Trey Smith is a guard.
Right. And what's wrong with it?
I've got the 11th overall pick at guard, and to sign Trey Smith, we're probably talking,
Jared,
it's going to be $20 million a year.
Jared, did you watch the Chiefs game? Did you watch that game?
The Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Does that not show you the importance of the interior part of the pocket?
He was in there.
It wasn't all on Trey Smith.
I would say that it was probably not a lot on Trey Smith, but
Jalen Carter. I'm talking about Jalen Carter and what he does. He showed you. Now, that's the type of impact that you want from Jeffrey Simmons. You know what I mean? That's what you want from him.
Sure.
That's what Jeffrey Simmons is supposed to be doing. So I say all that to say, I know you continue to minimize the impact of guard, but understand the league is shifting to, hey, look, man, the interior, that guard, center, guard triangle is critical. I don't care who. Look, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, we saw it with Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, any of them, they will tell you they hate having the pocket pushed back into their face. They hate having it. You know the one way you push the pocket back into the quarterback's face? By having that interior pass rush. You know the one way you keep the quarterback from seeing what he hates? Having that interior pass protection. And oh, by the way, the guards are the ones that you have pulling and making things happen, in the run game mostly. So don't underestimate the importance of guard. Don't do that.
I'm not saying guard is not important. I just don't think guard is $20 million a year important.
It depends on what it could do for your offense.
I don't think guard is 11th overall pick important.
Okay, Tony Pollard had 4 runs. Was it 4? It's 3 or 4 runs of 40 yards or more. You know who was the reason for 2 of them?
You're going to tell me it was Skoronski?
No. Dylan Radins. He pulled twice and blew out the end or the linebacker, and it opened up a free lane for Pollard to get to the alley. Go back and look at the Bears game. He pulled and he blew up that end going to the left side. Pollard, easy way to the alley, got there and was gone. That's a guard. Opening
so
up
I'm glad
the way.
You bring up Radins, because the way I view it is, and I know using like the average value of a contract is really not how this works, but it is the easier way to talk about it. So if it's like $20 million for Trey Smith, I'd rather pay Radins like $6 million, $7 million, and just be done with it. Hey. So he doesn't hit the market. He takes your $7 million, and you're to me, you're good at guard.
Whose name is in that story as one of the ones that they should bring back?
Mm-hmm.
Dylan Radins.
And that's because, again, I don't think Dylan Radins is like a great guard, but I think he's fine, and I'm good with fine at guard. There's a player that I've been looking up, TD. I want your opinion on, and maybe this would be something that we go, a little bit in the future on. The Rams have a left tackle by the name of Alaric Jackson.
Yes.
Who is a free agent. He's played over 1,000 snaps at left tackle each of the last 2 years. He allowed, I think, 3 sacks this past year, 2 sacks the year before, did not allow a sack on third down this past season. is an undrafted or is a former undrafted free agent out of Iowa, but now he's eligible as a UDFA. And I don't hear a lot of talk on him. And I'm like, a left tackle who plays pretty much every game, 1,000 snaps. His grades, again, make of that what you will from PFF, look decent. To me, if he's a legitimate left tackle, I think I'd sign him and move Latham over to the right side. What do you think of that?
I wouldn't be opposed to that. I think you have to vet him out a lot further. The thing is, right, he may not get attention media-wise, but I'm sure that, there's plenty of, league folks, try not to cough here. Plenty
You're
of
good.
league folks who are going to be on. I mean, look, Callahan even said that he wouldn't be opposed in the right situation to flipping Latham to right side. And I mean, look, I think he will be a dominant right tackle as well.
Okay, so you're the representative of the Titans at the combine. You're talking to the agents. An NWI's agent sits down with you and says, TD, Nick wants to remain a Titan, but after the season that he had, we're starting to get interest. We've gone out there the last 2 years and taken the league minimum each time, but we're not going to be able to do that this year. And there are teams that are interested. What would be the number? Let's just say, again, AAV, just to keep it simple. What number would you kind of set aside for NWI?
Between 7 and 8. I would 8 million would be my cap, AAV.
I was thinking 6, so probably in the ballpark. All right, TD, we will hit your phones next. 615-737-1025 here on the program. We will do that next here on Stillman and Company. Again, that's 615-737-1025. Nashville's best deal of the week is from Bavarian Beer House, located at Opry Mills Mall. Enjoy traditional German beer, brats, giant pretzels, and more in their expansive beer hall and garden. Head to theGameNational.com/deals and get half off a $50 gift card while supplies last. Stillman and Company, TD Power Hour, an early edition. TD is with us. TD, do you have a thought, or do you want to go right to the people into the phones?
Yeah, no, quick thought, man. Women's sports is at a high here. So please, if you could get out and check out Athletes Unlimited, 2 professional sports games for $20, man. Why not go check it out, man? And there's plenty of WNBA players. So do that. And Sunday, you got Dawn Staley in South Carolina coming to Vanderbilt to, take on Michaela Blakes and the rest of the Vandy team. I'm going to that too, man. It's a great time right now for women's sports. And hopefully all of this could be parlayed into a WNBA team coming here. We set, as a city, attendance records for AU, Athletes Unlimited. So hopefully that makes them understand. And if you folks are listening, hey, bring a team here, man. Let's have it.
By the way, I do feel like a proud papa with the Athletes Unlimited. I remember Asia Taylor when she was a senior in high school, and I've been on Jude Schimmel's reservation out in Oregon, and so I'm very, very proud of them participating with Athletes Unlimited. And to your point, I'd love a WNBA team. I think we lost out on our bid. I believe it was Cleveland that got the bid, which I think is a little disappointing. But
really,
I think, I think they're going to – but they'll continue to expand, and I do think that women's sports is absolutely on the rise. I mean, the All-Star game for the NBA drew like 4.5 million, and the WNBA drew 3.5 million. So I guess keep that in mind for whatever.
Yeah, and it's bigger than Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Though they help, but you got Paige Decker's coming. You got Juju will be there in a couple. Like, man, this thing is it's growing. So
Michaela Blakes.
I'm hoping I'm not going to speak it into existence. Like I want her to stay local for another at least year or so.
I just hope she drops like 60 on Sunday or something like that. Because
man, Dawn Staley, that's home. That's home team, man. Watch your mouth now. Watch your mouth.
Will on Music Row says, TD, how much cash do you think the Titans brash will be allowed to spend this offseason? 2 years ago, they did not spend much. Last year, they spent a lot. How do we feel the cash flow is going to be this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure on that one. I think that even if the cash flow is open, I don't think it's going to be flowing because you look at what they've said about being, selective as far as that's concerned. So really the bigger thing is who they bring in. That's the bigger thing.
I mean, I think they've this is going to sound crazy. I think they've kind of demonized free agency.
Really?
Because last year, this time, all the talk, and not from the team, but from the fan base was, $100 million in cap space, Jared. And they spent a bunch of money, but I mean, they still didn't end up with a right tackle. And so then I think, Chad Brinker kind of don't blame me, folks, was his thing is now that free agency is bad. And then in the other breath, we're talking about Sam Darnold, who's probably going to sign the biggest contract in all of free agency this offseason. So it's like, do you hate free agency or do you not hate free agency?
Yeah. I think they said it right. They're going to be selective. And you can't, break the bank. It floated under the radar. Did you know T. Higgins, he fired David Mulugheta?
Really?
Yeah. He fired Mulugheta and signed with Rocky Arsenal, who just so happens to be Jamar Chase's agent. How about it?
Yeah. That's the team can't collude, but we can.
Yeah. Look, Jamar Chase got a discount on that rate. You know that.
Oh, here's the thing though about Higgins. I'm glad you brought Higgins up because I thought last year when the Bengals tagged Higgins, I thought they were doing it because they were like, well, we don't want to lose him for nothing. So let's get a low first round pick or a high second round pick in exchange for Higgins, and let's just go draft the next Higgins. But every team that they probably called on for Higgins was like, well, we're going to try to draft the next T. Higgins so we don't have to pay T. Higgins $30 million a year. And now I'm sitting here when I see the reports that they're going to try to keep him. If they had just signed Higgins 3 years ago, wouldn't they be paying him like $22 million a year right now, as opposed to he's probably going to be like $32 million a year now?
Bad business, man. Bad business. That's what happens. I tell you though, Ted McMillan, his style of play, it reminds me a lot of T. Higgins.
I actually watched some of him, and I saw a little bit of AJ Brown, and then I
watch your mouth now. Take it easy.
Well, I think that T. Higgins and AJ's games are somewhat similar. I think Higgins is like a little bit more, Joe Burrow just pumps it up there and Higgins goes and gets it. Whereas
AJ is much more of a power player than either. But I mean, To me, it's the vertical ability, the size, the speed. It watching. But I'll say this about Ted McMillan: there are times like when the ball's not going his way, and there are times where he doesn't seem to be checked in. As far as like in the run game, some of the routes, running the route to the as hard as you can, despite knowing that the ball may not come your way, those types of things. So I need to watch more of him. And when I say more of him, I'm talking about more of him not getting the ball. I want to see that, to measure kind of like that dog that he has in him. But nobody has made more money as a receiver for themselves than Matthew Golden over the last 2 months. But that's another conversation.
One texter says, TD, I respect that you really like Shedeur Sanders and stand by it. I don't know how confident I would be in him being a franchise quarterback when I hear so many people talk about a second-round grade on him.
Yeah.
If people had him and Cam at a toss-up for 1-1, that would be fine. But it does seem like there are more people that believe that Cam Ward is a first-rounder than Shedeur Sanders. What do you make of that?
Yeah. Anybody that tells you that Shedeur Sanders is a second-round pick, take everything that they give you, like they tell you, and ball it up, put it in a trash can, because there is no doubting Shedeur Sanders is a first-round talent. Let's just stop that. I could get into a conversation with you if you talk about the number one overall pick. We could back and forth on that, but I'm not going to back and forth on a second round. And if you notice, no one of actual significance is saying that. And of course, you have a lot of morons. Like, I forget the dude's name, but he always says, as a former NFL scout, I think, because this guy, I forget his name, it's first round something on Twitter, and he says Shedeur is like a fourth round pick, or he wouldn't even draft him. That kind of stuff, you got to just push that aside, because that's clearly not being rational. You know what I mean? And I know everybody's entitled to an opinion, but that's just irrational. You know what I mean? If you talk about him possibly not being a first pick, okay. But really, those people who say that, you just ask them, okay, what is it about him that you don't like? And I guarantee you it'll be something that is ever so fixable, or something that is not really of huge significance. I guarantee you.
What do you make of the comp of Teddy Bridgewater for Shedeur? Not fair enough to Shedeur?
I mean, again, so what are the similarities that you see? You know what I mean? Like, I make the comp, like, Jared, we sat here back in November, I said, look, man, October even. I said, look, man, it's so much similar to CJ Stroud. And somebody on the chat says first round talent based on what? His last name. In fact, for you, Nick Daly, I would say this. His last name is probably the reason why there's so many morons that have him as a second round pick. You know what I mean? Because they hate the confidence and brashness that Deion Sanders has, as well as the ability to back it up. First round talent based on this comparison that I make to CJ Stroud. Tremendously accurate. And I know the completion percentage is skewed. And they mentioned, as Jason Watts says, he just throws screen passes. You know why he has to throw screen passes and balls 5 yards or less from the line of scrimmage?
He has no line.
He has no run game also. Mm-hmm. Teams never have to be concerned about the rushing attack against him. But yet he still manages to put these numbers up. The accuracy is tremendous. You look at, and I'm not talking about completion percentage. I'm just talking about watch the throws. He's always hitting his guys in stride, giving them, okay, back shoulder, because that safety's coming on your front, and I want you to fall back this way so you don't get body rocked. He's always doing those types of things. He's tough. Go watch the Nebraska game. He had his block knocked off millions of times. He has anticipation. These are all things that make me look at him. And then, not to mention, the way he went to a program and turned it around. And I know they didn't win a bowl game, but they went to one, 2 years after winning one game. He's a first-round talent to me, period.
What do you make of Louis Riddick today? Said that he has Ward just ahead of him. When it comes to, you said, okay, if you don't want to talk about the first pick, we can have that discussion. How big of the gap do you see between him and Ward?
Yeah, look, and that's a great conversation that you could have, because, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And it's just funny to me, right? It's very funny to me because when you have the Deshaun Watsons that come out, when you have the Jalen Hurts that come out, when you have the Patrick Mahomes that come out, what was the conversation, Jared? Hey, listen, you got to win from the pocket. I don't care. The game is still won from the pocket. Well, now you got a guy that wins from the pocket. And all of a sudden you say, hey, you got to be more athletic and make plays. That's why I like Cam Ward. You know what I mean? So it's just interesting. It's like Papa Shot. The goal posts just continue to move. But when you talk about Cam, to me, the thing that I really like is he definitely is a guy that when it's time to make a play, he's going to make it. And then the ability to throw, like you watch the deep passing ability that he has, like his arm is crazy, and then just, again, the ability to just find ways to make plays. I think that's tremendous. And I know I see, in the chat, they're saying he takes sacks a lot and things like that. Yeah, I mean, some of those sacks are on Shador, some of those sacks are on the offensive line. But again, these are things that are fixable. They're fixable things.
TD, great stuff as always. TD is off to the Athletes Unlimited professional basketball game over at Municipal Auditorium. And be sure to check out Talking with TD, and we will talk soon. You're the man, TD.
Oh, I thought we were going right to commercial off of that because I know I talked a lot. So no, appreciate you.
I was like, you're the man, TD.
Yeah, no,
Coming up next, though, I have got to protest something. I have to protest. I don't think I've ever done this, but I'm doing it now. We'll do it next. Stillman Company 102.5 The Game. I love talking about Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. Why? Because they take great care of my home and they can do the exact same for you. Hiller has been in business since 1990. They're family owned and operated. And Jimmy Hiller, and I know Jimmy Hiller, that's a good man. He was recently named amongst the most admired CEOs because of the way he truly cares for his team and his clients. Hiller takes care of the customer on every job, every time, and they stand behind their work with 100% satisfaction of happy you'll be, or the service is free. If a customer is not pleased with the work that is performed, Hiller will make it right. Learn more at happyhiller.com. That's Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical, proud supporters of the Preds, the Vols, and Vandy. Hiller, call the Half Face Truck today.
But
Okay.
Jared, I don't know if I can go as far as to say that John Robinson is a better general manager than Mike Vrabel as a coach. Like, it's fair to say that whenever John Robinson got fired, the Titans were horrific. But also, like, John
They weren't
Robinson made
horrific
his
when
fair
John-
share of flubs.
They weren't horrific when Robinson got fired.
After Robinson got fired? Yeah.
No, they weren't when Robinson got fired. My thing is without Robinson, Vrabel was a 6-win coach. Without Vrabel,
Correct.
Robinson built a playoff team. Like, they made the playoffs the year before Vrabel got there.
But
And
were
Robinson
they
was
bad
the GM.
because John Robinson wasn't there? Or were they bad because it was a string of so many bad decisions that John Robinson made that there wasn't enough that Mike Vrabel could work with to actually have a functional football team?
They took a guard. Who wins, Caroline?
Joe.
I can't believe Joe won with that NBA take. Okay, that was Jared versus Joe yesterday. And I have all the respect in the world for Caroline Fenton, but I have to protest yesterday's Jared versus Joe defeat. Because the two kind of defining takes of Jared versus Joe, I think we kind of agreed on the Sam Darnold front, which was kind of the first question. We had a short Jared versus Joe because of the Vandy basketball game yesterday, so we only had 3 questions. The second was, I forget, Ian, exactly what the question was, but it was something about what's wrong with the NBA. And I said that the players don't care. And Joe was like, that's wrong. In fact, do we have Joe's NBA take?
Some of it, yeah.
Okay, this was Joe's NBA. Again, my thing is the players don't care. The players don't care about the All-Star game. They don't care about the regular season game. Some of them don't even care about the playoff games. They don't care. They don't care. LeBron's more worried about getting his son, on the team and his buddy is the coach than he is about winning and losing. And Kevin Durant is more interested in his burner Twitter account than he is winning and losing. And Draymond Green is more interested in punching people in their man parts than he is winning and losing, which is why he got suspended in the finals. Basketball used to be legit. It used to be a war. It used to be a battle. Kobe versus the Trailblazers and Shaq and Kobe versus the Kings with Bibby and Christie and Peja and Vladi and Chris Webber. Like, that was a war. And now it's like, breaking news. Somebody's pinky toe nail is broken. They're out for a month. Wembanyama today, the future of the league, out for the year.
Blood clot.
Again, out for the year. Joe, so I guess his blood clot wasn't a problem when he was, half-assing the skills competition. Here was Joe's NBA take yesterday on Jared versus Joe.
It's what a 4-year-old child would say, throwing poop at the wall. I mean, what a ridiculous, idiotic statement by Jared. That all the players in the NBA don't care. Go watch an NBA game. In the middle of February, game 50, whatever, go watch it up close and tell me that they aren't competing. It's just the same stupid crap that you hear from whoever. Oh, this team wanted more. This team didn't care. The NHL, it's garbage. It's absolute garbage. And it's just, like Jared is very into the NFL, and that's great. And he has a lot of good NFL content on his show. And he digs in on stuff, and my God, he listens to every freaking talk radio show in the country. And he gets sound clips, and he studies it, and he reads about it, and he has good NFL content. And then he decides to just puke something all over his microphone about something else that he doesn't follow, and he just sounds like an idiot. It's a terrible take.
I don't follow the NBA because it's not interesting. I used to love the NBA. I did as a kid. I used to play the video games. I used to watch the games. If I could go to a game, I would go to the game. Like, I love the NBA. Not anymore, because the players don't care. And if the players don't care, I'm not going to care. So I feel robbed because my takeaway was I think John Robinson is a better general manager than Mike Vrabel is a coach. And Caroline gave the victory to Joe simply because of that. But I'm not sure I should have lost. Not only because I thought Joe's NBA take was ridiculous, but also I'm not convinced, in spite of the fact that it is the popular thing to get down on your knees and thank your lucky stars, that Mike Vrabel was the greatest coach who ever coached a football game, that it's Lombardi, Shula, Walsh, Belichick, Vrabel, because that is what the country seems to believe. But that's not true. We had a front row seat to the full Vrabel experience and the full J-Rob experience. John Robinson took the worst team in the NFL, and immediately they were a 9-win team. His first year, they were a 9-win team. John Robinson went to the playoffs, and his team won a playoff game without Mike Vrabel as the coach. You know, the great Mike Vrabel has won 2 playoff games in his career. It's not like he won 50 playoff games. He's won 2. Mike Mularkey won half the amount in, a third of the time that Vrabel had as coach. And without John Robinson as the general manager, Mike Vrabel's 1 year where Robinson was out and Vrabel had some control. Now, he didn't have the control that the Boo-Hoo Ran Carthon crew, the Ran Club, was making it out to be last year in defensive Ran, but he did have more of a say on the roster. And Vrabel had a say on the roster when John was the general manager. But again, the year that Vrabel was freed of John Robinson's shackles, they were 6-11. And they took a guard with their first pick. They took Will Levis with their second pick. Again, I'm not here to say that that's all Vrabel's fault. And in fact, I really don't believe that Vrabel was on board with picking Will Levis, to be completely honest. I know Paul said everybody was on board, and I just remember Charles Robinson saying that the coaching staff wanted players that could help that team for that year with Tannehill as the quarterback, and I believe it because it tracks with what I believe with Vrabel. So I can't necessarily hold Levis completely against him, but, I mean, Mike Vrabel was the guy sitting there and smiling and waving at the camera when they didn't take a receiver. And I know John Robinson traded A.J. Brown and Mike Vrabel didn't like it. I know that happened. But this idea that, the great Mike Vrabel's the greatest coach who ever lived, and this John Robinson who won 61% of his games, which is more than the percentage of the games that Vrabel won when he was the coach, this John Robinson is just the single worst thing that ever happened, is ridiculous. And I am convinced that Robinson's a better general manager than Vrabel as a coach, and I'm convinced Vrabel's going to go to New England. Vrabel's going to fail because Robert Kraft has given him too much power. Vrabel should not be picking the players. Yesterday, Vrabel released a player, Sion Takitaki, who was acquired by the Browns, from the Browns, I guess, a year ago. And Elliott Wolf, who came from the Browns, which Vrabel also comes from the Browns, technically, I guess. But Elliott Wolf, Mike Reese, who covers the Patriots for ESPN, the same way TD covers them for the Titans. Mike Reese put out there that the releasing of this Sion Takitaki was a clear shot that Mike Vrabel is running the show in New England, because that was Elliott Wolf's guy, and Vrabel cut him, which, by the way, is so Vrabel. Vrabel can't pick the players. Vrabel's never done that. Vrabel doesn't know. Vrabel and Cowden and Stretch, they don't know. And I think there's a legitimate argument to be made that Robinson was a better GM than Vrabel was a coach, even though the narrative around the country is the great Mike Vrabel. And Joe's NBA takes is terrible. So, again, I would like to protest yesterday's ruling. I think I should have won. 615-737-1025. We'll get to your phones. Plus, speaking of the great Mike Vrabel, there is something I saw that I am stunned by. Well, I'm not stunned by, again, because of the narrative, but it's ridiculous. We'll do it next. Someone to Company 125 the game. I mean, here's what I love about this. This is why I want John Robinson, who I actually think is probably better at his job, the old general manager with Vrabel. Yeah. I think he's probably a better GM than Vrabel is a coach. But what I really, I want him to get a GM job, and I'm glad Vrabel has this job with a terrible team right now because I want to see the scoreboard. Like, somebody's going to be right about this. Somebody's going to be wrong. We have no idea now, but at some point, we will know who was right and who was wrong. And if Vrabel goes and wins a Super Bowl with the Patriots, I'll say I was wrong, and Vrabel can smack me on the tush if it makes him feel better. I don't know. That was me at the Super Bowl in the Felger and Mass program, which we did air live here on our program. So, Ian, did you see who the odds-on favorite for the 2025 NFL Coach of the Year is?
No, I did not.
It's actually a tie. It's a tie between Bears coach Ben Johnson, who I'm also not that high on, and the great Mike Vrabel.
Interesting.
According to DraftKings, both Johnson and Vrabel are the favorites with plus 750 odds. It's Johnson and Vrabel, followed by Chargers head coach Jim Harbaugh, new Raiders coach Pete Carroll at 1,200, plus 1,200. Jaguars head coach Liam Cohen, Dave Canales of the Panthers, and Sean Payton of the Broncos are plus 1,400. As far as Coach of the Year is concerned, Dan Campbell plus 2,000, Matt LaFleur plus 2,500, and Kevin O'Connell plus 4,000. I guess Brian Callahan did not make the cut. Let me just say this. I think that if you put money on Mike Vrabel to win Coach of the Year, you are stupid. I think that Patriots team is so bad. And again, Vrabel's limited history of being in just remote control of the roster was a true disaster. It was a train wreck. No right tackle, Chigakonkwo starting at tight end, no left guard, his obsession with little baby Aaron Brewer, Andre Dillard. So, I mean, again, the narrative is out there that Mike Vrabel is some great coach, and the hillbillies in Tennessee are so stupid that they fired the next Don Shula mixed with Bill Walsh, mixed with Mike Ditka, mixed with Bill Belichick with just a touch of Jimmy Johnson. And I just know that that's not true. By the way, I think my favorite for Coach of the Year is Brian Schottenheimer. And I say that simply because he coaches a popular team. So if the Cowboys are good at all, everybody will vote for him. And everybody thinks he sucks. So if he does well, it'll be like, wow, the Cowboys made the playoffs with 10 wins because they played, a bad schedule and Dak's healthy and whatever. The Cowboys always follow a bad year with a good year anyways, no matter who the coach is, Coach Clapp, Jason Garrett, or Big Mike, or whomever. And they always follow a good year with a bad year. So Brian Schottenheimer would be my favorite. I don't even think he's a good coach. My top five are Brian Schottenheimer, Pete Carroll, Todd Bowles. I put Andy Reid in there because they're going to undergo a lot of surgery in Kansas City. And so if Andy wins again, maybe it'll be like a Lifetime Achievement Award. And I do have Harbaugh at 5. Vrabel as the favorite. The favorite for Coach of the Year. Again, number one, I think this idea that Mike Vrabel is some incredible coach and we all in Tennessee were too stupid to understand is ridiculous. I think the power that Robert Kraft has given Mike Vrabel, he is completely unqualified for. And I think the third and most important thing is Mike Vrabel's tenure as coach had its speed bumps. He inherited a playoff team, a team that won a playoff game. The next year, they didn't make the playoffs in Vrabel's first year. Vrabel went to the playoffs and they went on that run in 2019. Whoop-de-doo. But the next year, they won the division with the second-ranked offense in the NFL. And Mike Vrabel, a defensive coach, 28th in defense. They couldn't play defense that year. The next year, they had the number 1 seed in the AFC. Again, in large part to Vrabel. He can motivate these guys and that kind of thing. And they got beat at home by a Bengals team who wasn't as good as them. And you would say, well, Ryan Tannehill threw 3 interceptions, and he did. But Mike Vrabel, after that game, still kept Todd Downing on as the offensive coordinator. Downing was a train wreck. Keith Carter, offensive line coach. Jason Hodeling, offensive line coach. Craig Aukerman, special teams coach. I think Vrabel's a good coach. I do. But I see the warts. And when you tell me Vrabel is the leading choice for coach of the year on a team that doesn't have a left tackle, that doesn't have a receiver, give me a break. It's unbelievable. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com here on the program. One there says, Jared, these guys haven't been with the Titans for multiple years. Go on Boston radio if you want to talk about Vrabel. Let me say this. Mike Vrabel is a serious topic around here. And let's say I'm wrong, and Mike Vrabel is coach of the year. And let's say I'm wrong, and Mike Vrabel does make the playoffs in New England. That's going to be a big deal as far as Amy's popularity here, because Brian Callahan ain't doing so hot. Also, there are a bunch of people in the text line, like the pro NBA crowd, that's like, Joe's right. You say you don't even watch the NBA. You're right. I don't watch the NBA every day. I watch enough of it to know that the players don't care. I watch enough of it. And ESPN keeps us all updated since they talk basketball all the time, even though no one outside of the major cities with a team cares about basketball in America. This is not like the Ryder Cup where I pay zero attention to it. I do pay attention to the NBA. For the people that are like, you said you don't watch. How can you say the players don't care? Because I've watched enough to know the players don't care. But hey, LeBron did get his son on his team, even though his son is god-awful. 615-737-1025. Tim Hasselbeck was on television, and he said that the team, the fit most likely for Aaron Rodgers, according to him, were none other than the Tennessee Titans. But he was never actually asked on TV to explain why Aaron to the Titans. Well, our midday show did ask Tim. And boy, what he said got me thinking. We'll get to that next. Stillman & Company, 105 The Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063 The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios and presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. So I'm watching ESPN the other morning, and they have a full panel of NFL players. And they're asking the question, what's the best destination for Aaron Rodgers? And somehow they get to talking about the Steelers and why the Steelers would be a good fit. And then they throw it to Tim Hasselbeck, and Tim Hasselbeck says the Steelers wouldn't be a good fit. And then at the end, at the bottom of the screen, it pops up where everybody thinks the best fit for Aaron would be. And under Tim Hasselbeck, it had a Titan logo. And I sat there and I said to myself, I'm like, well, I want to know why Tim thinks the Titans would be a good fit for Aaron, not why Tim thinks the Steelers wouldn't be a good fit. But again, ESPN plays to the national audience, not exactly to me. And I would guess that more people across the country probably do care why Aaron Rodgers isn't a fit for the Steelers than why he would be a fit for the Titans. But lucky for us, Tim Hasselbeck went on the midday show that day, and they asked him, they said, Tim, why did you think Aaron Rodgers would be a good fit for the Titans? And here is what Tim Hasselbeck had to say.
Now, the reason I said Rodgers is this. I don't think Rodgers is going to have choices. Like, where else is Aaron going? And, people are like, oh, Pittsburgh. Like, I don't think he's a fit in Pittsburgh. Look, Russell Wilson's 5 years younger, was there last year and played relatively well for them. Like, Aaron's never been in that offense, and I don't think Aaron's a fit personality-wise or any of that. So I think when the dust settles, like, what is a team that could be a little bit like the Raiders last year, where they missed on the quarterbacks in the draft, right? Because if the Titans don't go quarterback at the very top, like, there's a possibility, like, they don't end up with one. Well, like, would we agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, well, now you're looking for a quarterback. Okay. Well, now you are in that realm of like, all right, well, look, I got to win some games or else we're going to all get fired. So who helps us, maybe win 10 games, 9-10 games? Who can do that? And I think that when you get to that point, you are in the Aaron Rodgers business.
Again, Tim said, I just don't think there's going to be anybody who wants Aaron Rodgers. And the Titans, you're going to have to win some games or Brian Callahan's getting fired. So, strange bedfellows. Aaron, welcome to Tennessee, because you're not wanted anywhere else. And then it kind of hit me listening to Tim Hasselbeck say that. Do you realize that Aaron Rodgers' stats this past year for the Jets, coming off of a torn Achilles, were basically identical to the stats he put up in Green Bay the year before he showed up with the Jets? So the stats that Aaron accumulated in Green Bay that led the Jets to give the keys to the castle to Aaron Rodgers are basically the same stats he had last year, and they fired him. Aaron threw for more touchdown passes last year, 28, than 26 in 2022. Aaron threw for less interceptions, 11 to 12. And yet, they still fired him. And then we start looking around saying, well, who would be a good fit for Aaron? Would the Giants be a good fit for Aaron? No. Would the Browns be a good fit for Aaron? No. They're paying Deshaun Watson. They got a problem with Myles Garrett. No. And it's starting to feel to me like Aaron Rodgers is this year's Bill Belichick. It kind of feels to me Aaron can still play. And it kind of feels to me like Aaron's not wanted in the NFL anymore. Because while he can still play, he can't play like he used to. And it is shocking to me how similar the two situations are. Do you really think that Justin Fields is better than Aaron Rodgers? I always say this, and I always put Ian on the spot when I use this, and I feel kind of bad because, knock on wood, Ian, I hope this never happens. But I always talk about if the cartel had your family, if the cartel had your family captive and you had to win a game with Aaron Rodgers or Justin Fields at quarterback, nobody is picking Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins? Tyrod Taylor, Shedeur Sanders, better than Aaron Rodgers right now. Does anybody think that? And we all know Aaron was in a terrible organization last year where they never win, no matter who the coach is, no matter who the quarterback is, no matter who the GM is. And by the way, the coach was a bozo and got fired. The GM did get fired. The owner is listening to his son and John Madden football ratings. And again, Aaron still had a similar season to his last year in Green Bay. So the same season that led to the Jets handing their franchise to Aaron is the same season that got him fired. But again, just like Belichick, here's why nobody wants Aaron Rodgers anymore. Because he's a pain in the ass. And in the NFL, you can only be a pain in the ass when you're the absolute best. You can be a pain in the ass when you're the absolute best, or you own the team. Bill Belichick learned that the hard way. When Bill was winning championships, you guys remember that, he was smarter than everybody else. He was tougher than everybody else. He was more disciplined than everyone else. He was a diabolical genius. And because of that genius, Charlie Weiss, Romeo Crennel, Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien, Matt Patricia, Joe Judge, Brian Flores, Josh McDaniels again, and Mike Vrabel all got head coaching jobs because somebody just wanted a taste of that secret sauce. And then Bill started losing. And then Tom went to Tampa and won without Bill. He won with old man Bruce Arians and crazy ass Antonio Brown. And it was kind of like, is Belichick really all that smart? And while I thought Belichick did some really off his rocker stuff, making Matt Patricia the offensive coordinator, signing Cam Newton, etc. Do you really think Bill Callahan, who got a job last offseason and Belichick didn't, do you really think Bill Callahan's a better coach? Excuse me, Brian Callahan is a better coach than Bill Belichick? Do you really think Raheem Morris, who beat out Bill for the Falcons job, do you really think he's a better coach than Bill Belichick? Do you think Brian Schottenheimer is a better coach than Bill Belichick? The Atlanta Falcons, who blew a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl at the hands of Bill, had an owner who lusted for Belichick. But the GM and the president kept him from doing it because they didn't want to deal with Bill's ego. But let me ask the people of Buffalo a question when it comes to Bill Belichick. You think he could scheme up a D that could stop Kansas City? Or do you want to try to run it back for the 8th time in the playoffs against the Chiefs just to see if this time maybe Sean McDermott will figure it out? I look at the musical chairs for quarterbacks, and I think Aaron Rodgers obviously should still be in the NFL. But he's not going to be the quarterback for the Jets or the Giants after the last 2 years in New York, though he probably would be the best option for both teams. He's not going to be the quarterback of the Browns unless he plays for $10 million or the Browns view Aaron Rodgers as the only way to keep Myles Garrett. There are 6 open jobs. There won't be 7 because if Minnesota doesn't go with Sam Darnold, they'll go with J.J. McCarthy. 2 quarterbacks will be drafted, and Darnold will take 3 jobs. There's still 3 other jobs out there. And yet here we are sitting around saying, I don't know if the Raiders would like Aaron Rodgers. I don't know, to the point where Tim Hasselbeck is saying, no, it's going to be the Titans are the best fit because that's the only team that might be desperate enough to go to Aaron because their coach, and again, when it comes to Brinker, who knows, they may get fired if they don't win enough games. So they'll deal with Aaron being a pain in the ass in order to keep their jobs. And I keep going back to Bill. You guys really think there are 32 people on the planet that are better coaches than Bill Belichick? Bill Belichick put it out there when he was up for the Falcons job that he doesn't have to be GM. Now, I'm not sure I necessarily believe that, and I don't think the Falcons believe that either. But if Bill Belichick could just be coach, and Bill hired a real offensive coordinator, you don't think Bill's one of the best 32 guys on the planet? What if the Bengals fired Zach Taylor and hired Bill and gave him the money to keep Trey Hendrickson and T. Higgins and Jamar Chase with Joe Burrow? You don't think Bill would be able to win with Joe Burrow? I do. But again, this is how the league likes it. If you are not the absolute best, the way Aaron was 2 years ago, the way Bill was a decade ago, if you are not the absolute best or you don't own the team the way Jerry Jones does, so he'll never get fired, they don't want to deal with you. If you don't go along to get along, they don't want to deal with you. The only reason Brian Callahan kept his job, because he stays out of the way. And I just think that's a terrible way to build a football team. 615-737-1025. So what about Rodgers and the Titans? Again, Tim laid it out there saying, if the Titans don't get Sam Darnold and they don't draft a quarterback, because a lot of people don't think these quarterbacks are very good, then is Rodgers the guy to save their jobs? We'll get to that next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
He had a great year prior to that. The previous 16 games, or 15 games, he was wonderful. And then 16 games. The last couple were terrible. I know what. That's a quarterback the Titans were considering. Is that what you're telling me?
Sure. I mean, it's him, Daniel Jones.
No way.
Aaron Rodgers.
Rodgers, that's not impossible, but they're not are they a now team ready to win right this second if they have a good quarterback?
I don't think so. I just don't know if there's any other place for Rodgers.
Don't be shocked if the Jets don't bring him back. I could see that.
That's not a win now team either.
It isn't, but it's New York. And, they're coming off a horrific year. The division isn't great in New England. Buffalo, Buffalo is obviously, but New England and Miami, McDaniels. I mean, I would not be, and they bring Adams back too if they bring back Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be shocked if Aaron Glenn brought him back. But you're right. I don't know if Rodgers would fit Nashville. Issues about Donald, I would be very hesitant to go out there and give him a long term. He wants to do it for a year or two. It doesn't kill me. Sort of like the deal the Giants made with Jones, where they gave him a couple of years, a lot of money, but they could get out of the contract if they needed to. Same kind of thing here with Donald if I was Nashville.
There you go. That was Doggy on the show. And I got to say this. Dog was talking, this was before the Super Bowl, and on Super Bowl Sunday was when Jay Glazer reported that the Jets were done with Aaron Rodgers. I was actually kind of surprised that the Jets were done with Aaron Rodgers, not because Dog said, he might go back there, but just because there was nobody. Like, who's going to be the Jets quarterback now? So that I don't understand. But again, if Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Titan, and I've heard now there's some discussion that Aaron may go to Prime Video, and that maybe, I guess, would he be with Al Michaels doing the games and he would take Herbstreit's job? I don't know. If Aaron were to do that, it would be exactly like Bill going to college, where the NFL told Bill, we don't want you. Aaron Rodgers clearly wants to play. He flew his ass out to New York to try to stay with the Jets because he wants to play. And that takes me to the Titans. Aaron Rodgers is not what Mike Borgonzi would consider, in my opinion, solidifying the quarterback position. Aaron's 41. So solidifying the quarterback position is like solidifying it for 2, 3, 4 years. Again, when he says solidifying the quarterback position, he's talking about what they did in Kansas City. You may think that means Mahomes. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about Alex Smith. Aaron's not 27 years old, which is how old Alex Smith was when they acquired him in Kansas City. In fact, Aaron is Alex Smith's age and was in the same draft class as Alex. But Tim Hasselbeck does bring up a good point. If the Titans don't draft one of these quarterbacks, and it doesn't sound like, again, it's early, but trying to read the tea leaves, it doesn't sound like the Titans are interested in these quarterbacks. If the Titans don't take one of these quarterbacks and they don't get Sam Darnold and he goes to the Raiders, which seems to be the national opinion of where Darnold's going to land, who is better than Aaron Rodgers? And if you're Brian Callahan, you have to win games this year. Some of you are intrigued with the idea of Justin Fields. Justin Fields is 14-30 in his career in the NFL. Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Justin Fields. We don't even know if Justin Fields can read a defense. We know Aaron can. You're going to put Daniel Jones out there? You think Daniel Jones is a better option to save your job than Aaron Rodgers? So I do think Aaron is a legitimate possibility. But the real decision maker when it comes to Aaron would have to be Chad Brinker. This would have to be a Chad Brinker. Hey, we can do this with Aaron. We can be the Packers. We can be Aaron. We can be the Packers with Aaron Rodgers. We'll draft a quarterback in the 4th round. We'll draft Will Howard out of Ohio State in the 4th round. We'll sit him on the bench behind Aaron. We'll develop him. If he's no good, then we'll go get a quarterback next year. But Aaron Rodgers will be our quarterback, and I trust Aaron Rodgers can do it and can do it professionally without causing problems. And I don't know how Brinker feels about Rodgers. You know, that's the thing. Everybody always connects when somebody's worked with somebody before. They say, oh, Jared Stillman, he must definitely want to work with that guy that he used to be with on the radio in whatever town. But there's a chance that I might actually think that this guy sucks on the radio. That I worked with him, and every day I worked with him was like, oh, God, this guy. You don't know. So when it comes to Brinker's opinion of Aaron, he might love him. He might think he's the patron saint. He also may at the same time think, oh, God, what a pain in the tush. And we don't know the answer to that. But I do think it's fascinating. Here's what I will say. My choice is Sam Darnold. I know TD loves these quarterbacks. I don't like either of them. So I would prefer to draft Abdul Carter, which means I can't get either of these two quarterbacks because they will go within the first 10 picks. I think my second choice would be Aaron. It would just be more fun than Daniel Jones. And Daniel Jones is a bridge too. And that's probably where they are. 615-737-1025. Your phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com here on the program. One texter says, Tim said on the midday show that Derek Carr would be better than Aaron Rodgers and that Derek Carr is better right now. That's great. There's one problem. Derek Carr's on a team. And the amount of people out there that are like, well, he could be a cap casualty for the Saints. Number one, the salary cap does not apply to the Saints. We've now done this about 1,800 years in a row. And every time when it comes to the Saints, they're always 85 million, 95 million, however much over the cap this time of the year. And they always find a way out of it. And when it comes to Derek Carr, and again, the Saints as of right now are $47 million over the cap, which I'm actually a little surprised, Ian. That's kind of light for them.
I still have to restructure something.
Well, the Saints are usually like 70, 80 million over. So to only be 47 million over, that's, if they were to cut Derek Carr, they would save $1.3 million on the fake cap. So they're going to save 1.3. If you're a cap person, they're going to save $1.3 million when they're 47 million in the hole. That's not even going to make a dent. And then who's their quarterback going to be? So no, he's not available. And at least with Stafford, there's like legitimate chatter that Stafford might be out of there. There's no legitimate chatter that Carr's going to be out of there. And not only that, Carr kind of stinks. Like you're going to say, that's a hot take, Jared. But if you came to me and you said, okay, Derek Carr, who's going to make $40 million this year, Derek Carr at $40 million, or bringing back Ryan Tannehill, who's 2 years older, but took a year off and thus isn't hurt the way that Derek Carr is, for $20 million, I'd bring back Tannehill. In fact, I don't even know where Tannehill would rank on the pecking board, but for me, it'd be Darnold 1, Aaron 2, Daniel Jones 3, and then like Mac Jones for $7 million, Tannehill for $25 million. Like at some point, it's like, yeah, you know what? Tannehill's not that bad of an option.
What do we think the Jets are going to do at quarterback?
I think they're
I think they're going to
have Tyrod Taylor.
Really?
Quarterback. Yeah. If you remember, he's still on the team, and the owner last year wanted to bench Aaron after 4 games in favor of Tyrod Taylor, which again is so stupid.
I wonder if that's more about Rodgers though than Tyrod.
It's like this team is like, oh, we're so much better off with Tyrod Taylor at quarterback than we are Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Again, people think Justin Fields is better than Aaron Rodgers, which is ridiculous. One texter says, you bring up Fields' record every time, but Mac Jones has won 3 more games than Fields, and he's one of your top candidates. I just said he's right there with Tannehill. What are you talking about? One of my top candidates. Fields also played at Ohio State, so you know he's played at a high level. Stay consistent in your arguments. Fields sucks. He sucks. And the league knows he sucks because nobody wanted to trade for him last year. Pittsburgh gave up a 6th. He went 4-2 as their starter, and then they benched him. Fields stinks. Stinks. Again, this idea that Aaron Rodgers is better than Fields is ridiculous. You know, I was listening to people talk about like old trades. And this is why we have to be very careful when looking at historical precedents for trades in the NFL. Because Keyshawn Johnson was traded from the Jets to the Buccaneers for 2 first-round draft choices in 2000. And that is a fortune, right? 2 first-round draft picks. But the draft was not as popular then as it is now. And now because the draft is so popular and it's got its own economic system, I mean, the draft is half the year of the NFL. The draft is like the second biggest day of the year outside of the Super Bowl. And so because of that, teams value picks more because their fans care about it more. Well, a lot of you like Justin Fields simply because Justin Fields was good in college. But Justin Fields has never been good in the NFL. He's not better than Aaron Rodgers. But Jared, he played at Ohio State. Whoa. Jameis Winston won a national title, and I'm not interested in him being the quarterback. And he's actually won some games in the league, and I would take him over Fields. Jameis would be fun, but it'd be a train wreck. 615-737-1025 here on the program. We're back to your phones. 615-737-1025. Plus, Louis Riddick said something about Cam Ward today that even though I don't really value Louis Riddick's opinion, I do value this for a specific reason. We'll get to that next and your phones. Stillman and Company, 615-737-1025, 1025 the game.
Tennessee Titans first pick. I was talking to some folks around the league and trying to canvas just like your opinions, guys who know people in the decision-making process there, and not with direct information. But the same theme kept coming up over and over and over again, which was, this is new. You know, a lot of times we hear new regime accompanied with a new quarterback. But this was the feedback I was like, look, we're not completely sold slam dunk quarterbacks here in this draft, which has been pretty universal across the board. Right. They're going to have time. They're going to get time to eventually get their quarterback. And with a plethora of needs, like, do you really want to look back and say your first pick you had to replace a year later or 2 years later? Like, let's just park one in the fairway here. Let's just get the best player available, and then they can, you know, hunt for a quarterback in the next couple of years. But they're where they are in their process. That was the feedback. So, boom, I pump in Abdul Carter.
That was Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network's lead draft analyst, saying it sounds like the Titans aren't interested in these quarterbacks. And again, I am sitting there saying, whoo, gosh, oof. Although I am starting to come around on Shedeur Sanders.
In what way?
I do think it would be very entertaining for the radio show if Shedeur Sanders was the quarterback of the Titans. Because if Shedeur Sanders were the quarterback of the Titans, one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to work, and it's going to be the greatest thing ever, and the Titans will be good, yay! Or it'll be a disaster, and Dion will be tweeting at me because I'll be the one that sits there and blows up. You know, if Shedeur Sanders says something stupid, I'll be the one that makes a big deal about it, and then Dion will get mad about it, and so it'll be a whole thing. So I'm starting to talk myself into the entertainment value of Shedeur, even though I do not think he's very good. Like, I hear what TD's saying. He's an accurate passer. I don't like his size. I don't like his athleticism. And quite frankly, I think he holds on to the ball too long. So that being said, we'll see. But I did say this about Cam Ward, whose tape I studied deeply. And I did say he's a first-round quarterback. Now, I'm not sure he's a first overall quarterback. And while he's athletic, he's not an elite athlete. And while he's got good arm talent, he doesn't have elite arm talent. And while he's got some decision-making issues, those things, we'll see if he could work in the NFL and fix those and everything else. But I said the meetings would be huge. The meetings would be massive. And I'm talking about the meetings that we're not privy to. You know, at the combine, they'll sit down with Cam Ward, all the decision makers in a room. Cam, tell us about this. Cam, tell us about that. I'm sure they'll have Cam Ward in town on a top 30 visit. Cam, tell us about this. Cam, tell us about that. They'll probably go to Miami and work him out. And they'll probably sit down with him there. Cam, tell us about this. Cam, tell us about that. And I said the meetings would be paramount into me believing that he can be a leader. Well, Louis Riddick was on ESPN today, and he was talking about Cam Ward. He was asked about Cam Ward, and he threw out this little nugget that even though I don't really like Louis Riddick's opinions, and when I see Louis Riddick's name bandied about for GM jobs, I laugh because I think it would be an unmitigated disaster. At the same time, what I will say about Louis Riddick is he does have the meeting access that we're not able to get because he's called Cam Ward's games. And here's what Louis had to say today.
I got to talk to this guy now 3 different times. Got to talk to him at Washington State up there in Pullman. Got to talk to him down in Tampa when they played South Florida this year. We did that game and got to talk to him again before they played Georgia Tech. Ask Mario Cristobal about the kind of leader that this guy is and what he did to Miami football in the offseason from the time he decided to transfer from Washington State to the time they stepped on the football field. He took over this program, they said, like no one he has ever seen it. And Mario has played with some great players, some of the greatest of all time at the U. This guy is the ultimate consummate leader. He plays with a gigantic-sized boulder on his shoulder. It's not a chip. It's a boulder. He is very confident in the work that he has put in, and he should be because he's supremely smart. He is supremely talented, and he's deadly serious about the game. And he feels as though, even at this point in time, people still don't really believe that he's as good as he is. And he can play. He directed that passing attack down there at Miami this year with the kind of precision and kind of maturity that is worthy of being considered a number 1 overall pick. It just is. And when he gets to the NFL level, He will be the guy who. What is the first thing that people said about Jaden Daniels when he went to Washington? They were surprised not surprised that everyone was impressed about the fact that he was there at 5 a.m. every day and he's the last guy to leave. And that's not just for show; it's because that's part of his process. It's the same thing with Cam Ward.
That matters for two reasons. Number one, Cam Ward has a lot to do in the NFL, and I need to know that Cam Ward will be committed. And Cam Ward will be ready and willing and able to do those things that he's got to do to improve his game when he gets to the league. And number two, I think this is important because I do think the Titans have a serious leadership problem. They have a locker room problem. They have no real leaders on the team. Post Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and Kevin Byard, the Titans anointed Jeffrey Simmons as the leader of the team. And what did Simmons do? He embarrassed them. He picked fights with the media over the criticism of Jamal Adams. They were right. He went at Buck, who tweeted about him acting like a fool in practice, and Buck was right. He took swings in practice the first day of pads. He declared that no one runs the ball on the Tennessee Titans before they allowed 188 rush yards to the Green Bay Packers. And more recently, he did a podcast and he told everybody who he thinks the team needs to draft. I guess not only does he think he's team leader and defensive tackle, I guess he also thinks he's the GM now too. That's the only leader they have. So when Louis Riddick, who again does the meeting, sits down with the coaches, sits down with Cam, and he goes on TV and says, I've sat down with this young man 3 times, and I'm telling you, this guy is a number one leader. He is a first guy in the building, last guy out leader. That does mean something to me. And he compared it to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels did an interview at the Super Bowl. And the way that these guys, they kind of parade around doing all the different, whatevers. And one of these, digital something or another, Ian, I don't know if you saw this. It might have been Caroline's group, but they did something with Jaden Daniels where they took the silhouettes of the quarterbacks and they asked the quarterbacks to watch just the silhouette. So you can't see any colors. You can't see anything other than, again, the actual silhouette of the guy dropping back to pass and throwing the ball. And Jaden Daniels was the only one that got all 10 or whatever it was, 8 or whatever. And so there's a little silhouette and he's like, oh yeah, it's Josh Allen. Ding, ding, ding. He's like, oh, no, that's for sure Kyler. Ding, ding, ding. Baker. Ding, ding, ding. Like he got them all. And he was like, yeah, I watch a lot of film. I'm like, damn. Like I watch a lot of football and I can't do that. Jaden Daniels like, oh, that's Dak. Ding, ding, ding. It's like, damn. And so if Cam's work ethic is similar to Jaden's, then that tells me something. Because clearly Jaden Daniels' work ethic is off the charts. Okay, to your phones next. 615-737-1025. And those things in the meetings would matter to me. 615-737-1025. Something that will for sure be a big deal when it comes to Cam Ward is not to me. We'll hit that next as well. Stillman and Company, 1025 The Game.
Stephen A's listening to. He played one half of the bowl game to set the record with the amount of touchdowns. Case Keenum had 156 and he had 157.
You didn't like
and
that?
And then he sat out the second half and they lost. And I don't want to hear it. Well, we wanted to give the other guy a chance to see what we had. That's a bunch of nonsense. If Cam Ward wanted to finish his career and play the game, they would have let him finish the career. So I don't like that because he put statistics over winning the game. That's me. You might disagree. Listen, I think Ward's got a chance. You saw him in the game he lost this year at Georgia Tech.
Yep.
I'm not quite ready to say that this is a no doubt about it, no miss, think straight. He's going to be the first, second pick in the draft. You're going to win Jaden Daniels.
Yep.
I'm not ready to say that.
That was Mad Dog talking about, hey, Cam Ward checked himself out of the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and I don't like it. And a lot of old hats don't like it. You know, Rick Spielman on his podcast was like, if I was sitting down in the meetings with him, I'd be making a big deal about that. Maybe I'm ignorant. I don't know. I don't care. You know, it's a different era when it comes to the bowl game. The players don't care anymore. The coaches don't care. They don't even stay around to coach the bowl games. I mean, I remember Louisville played Cincinnati 2 years ago, and Scott Satterfield was the head coach at Louisville, and he left to go be the head coach at Cincinnati. And Jeff Brom had been hired to be the head coach at Louisville. And so Deion Branch and a bunch of GAs are coaching this bowl game at Fenway Park. And I'm watching this game on TV, and during the broadcast, ESPN zooms in with both the coaches from their office while the games are going on. I'm like, what the hell are we doing? So the coaches don't even care about the bowl game. So why would the players care? So the fact that Cam Ward checked himself out of the Pop-Tarts Bowl after he said, you know, I don't care about that. Do not care. Did he throw the touchdown passes? Yep. I also think it's stupid that we count the bowl game stats, or in some cases like Barry Sanders, we don't. I think that's stupid too. But again, I don't really care about that either. So this will come up when it comes to Cam Ward. And I'm not saying like, oh yeah, I want Cam Ward. But what I am saying is that this will come up, you know, in the Cam Ward discussion, that Cam Ward, he quit on his team. He quit on the bowl game. And I just don't. That does not compute with me. Let's go to Ellie, who's up next here. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com at 615-737-1025. Ellie, go ahead.
A couple of things. First thing, if your coach is on the hot seat, the easiest way you could ruin a quarterback is by drafting him and then going to another offense coordinator the next year and making it bad. I mean, this is the year in free agency you could fix your offensive line. Your defense, you get a turnover-laden defense with some great pass rushers. And if Cam Ward does remind me a little bit of Steve McNair with some of his evasiveness, his body build, his throwing ability, and I think he needs a year off. But again, if your coach is on the hot seat, this is not the year to draft a quarterback. I would get one in free agency instead.
I don't think they care about Callahan being on the hot seat. I'm not sure how much I care. Thank you, Ellie. I'm not sure how much I care about Callahan being on the hot seat. But I would say that if Callahan does get a say in this, like if they really do care what Callahan thinks, then it probably won't be a quarterback. It sounds to me like the Titans are not interested in drafting a quarterback. TD said it during the TD Power Hour earlier today on the show. He said that he knows 3 people in the building like Abdul Carter. By the way, I do wonder who those 3 people are. And I do think it's kind of fascinating that TD's already got hooks in there, that 3 people in the building like Abdul Carter. So could that be like Denard Wilson or Mike Borgonzi or Chad Brinker? Again, I don't know. Sonny says, my biggest holdup with Sam Darnold is giving up picks for him, specifically the 35th pick. The money doesn't bother me the more I think about it. You know, a buddy of mine whose dad is a very, very successful businessman in town told me that his dad once told him, and again, this is from a business standpoint, if you've got a problem and you can make it go away with money, do it. Again, that's why people sign NDAs. You got a problem and you can give somebody again, this is if you're rich, you can give somebody $250,000 and goodbye and it's done, do it. Well, in the case of Sam Darnold, this is why I have no problem overpaying Sam Darnold. Because if, let's say the Raiders are interested, but they're interested in the Baker Mayfield contract at $33 million a year. And it's like, I can give Sam Darnold $38 million a year and he'll come to me because of the extra $5 million. Do it. I agree. The money, whatever. If you end up drafting a good quarterback and you sign him, it'll be for way more than that anyways. So I'm not worried about it. When it comes to the draft picks, the way I view this is, would you rather use the 35th pick to get your quarterback? Or would you rather use the first pick to get your quarterback? Your quarterback may not be as good, and you've missed out on Abdul Carter. That's the way I view it. I also do wonder if Minnesota would accept your 2 fourth-round picks. Your 2 fourth-round picks have the value of a mid to late third-rounder. Again, if they were to let Sam Darnold leave as a free agent and he were to sign, they'd get a third-round pick in next year's draft as a compensatory pick. Perhaps Minnesota would be willing to do that because they don't have a whole lot of picks. So the volume of picks, maybe that helps. Surely they would shoot for 35. But also, like, I think about picks. And I remember this time last year, the Bengals franchised T. Higgins. And I'm not the biggest T. Higgins fan in the world. I think T. Higgins is a very good player. But I also think like T. Higgins is a high-end number 2 receiver. And when T. Higgins goes to a team without Joe Burrow and without Jamar Chase, will he still be as dangerous? Maybe, but I'm not sure. But I believe that the reason that the Bengals tagged T. Higgins was because they wanted to trade him. And they wanted to get a low first-round pick, high second-round pick in order to make up for T. Higgins so they could try to draft the next T. Higgins and then give Jamar Chase a big contract. But I think most of the teams in the league said, nah, we're good. We don't want to trade the pick for the next T. Higgins to get T. Higgins because we think we can draft the next T. Higgins. But I wonder if the Patriots, who drafted Jalen Polk, who looks like, again, it's 1 year, but looks like a complete and total bust. I wonder if they look at themselves and say, yeah, we could have traded the 34th pick in last year's draft for T. Higgins. Signed T. Higgins to a contract. We tried to sign Calvin Ridley too. Sign Higgins to that contract, and boom, on we go. Young quarterback, T. Higgins. And now it's like they really want T. Higgins and they really want to pay T. Higgins, but T. Higgins is going to be franchised again. One texter says, if Willie is right and this is an exploratory year for the Titans, you keep saying that they don't care about Callahan's opinion, so maybe they're not concerned about his job either, and maybe they do go with Aaron Rodgers. If they're concerned for his job, Aaron Rodgers would be more likely to be the quarterback than if they're not concerned with his job. If they're not worried about Callahan, they can sign Daniel Jones and then say, oh, yeah, we suck, fire Callahan, move on. If they're worried, like, no, we need to win 9 games to justify Brian Callahan's existence, then you probably are more likely to sign Aaron Rodgers. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. The game of the year, especially for us here in Nashville, is tonight. And I'm nervous. And I'm going to make a pick for tonight's game. And we'll do that next on the Company 105 Game. Stillman and Company, 1025, 1063, The Game, streaming live on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook Live. We are live from the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios. And we are presented by the Southern Bank of Tennessee. The Four Nations face-off is tonight. The big game. Ian, I believe it's at 7 o'clock tonight.
Yes, it is.
Though this one's saying 8 o'clock on the StubHub that I just pulled up because I want to see what the get-in price was on the tickets, but I'm guessing that's 8 Eastern.
Correct.
7 o'clock tonight for the Four Nations face-off finale. Canada versus USA. Best on best. Do you want to go to the game? As of this morning, the get-in price on StubHub was $1,200. The tickets are dropping a little bit. The get-in price now is $1,000 a ticket. $1,010 to be exact. So if you had 2 tickets, it'd be $2,000 to go to the game. Now, let me say this. If I had just complete and total FU money, like if I was Colin Cowherd or Mad Dog or, one of those guys making like $7 million a year, this is what would happen. Ian, me and you, my dad, and my girlfriend, who is Canadian, would fly a private plane from here to Boston. We would also meet up with her family. Again, they're all Canadian. And we'd all go to the game tonight.
Fun.
Do you think you'd be allowed to do that? Because my guess is we'd have to drop my son off with my mom, and she'd have to watch him. And I think she'd do that. Would Nicole let you in the middle of the week come with us to fly the plane to go to Boston, and then we'd fly right back after the game, so we'd get back like 3 o'clock in the morning?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. So that's if I had just complete and total screw you money. What do you think that would cost? $200,000?
Something like that, I guess. I don't know how much it costs to rent like a plane like that. I got no clue.
Okay, so a private plane for us would probably cost about $25,000, $30,000 there and back. So let's say 30,000.
Okay, so 60 total. Or you said there and back?
No, just 30 total.
Okay,
Yeah, there and
total.
back, 30. So 30.
Okay.
So it would cost us $30,000 to fly there and back. And then I'm gonna say the tickets, we're gonna want to sit nice tickets, right? Like again, we're flying a private plane to the game. We're not gonna sit in the 300 levels. Which again, no disrespect to the 300 level, but like we're not gonna do that. So we're looking at, I'm thinking $5,000 a ticket. And so it would be me, you, Lindsay, my dad.
So that's 20.
Her family, which would be her dad, her brother.
10 more.
Her sister, brother-in-law, 2 nephews.
Oh, my goodness.
And probably another nephew. What's that?
That was almost 60,000 in tickets, I think.
Okay, so 60,000. So we're looking at 90,000, and then we're going to have to fly them in there as well. So yeah, we're probably looking at about $150,000.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Again, if I was making $7 million a year, I think I could splurge the $150,000 to enjoy this big game. Like I've already seen some shots from downtown Boston, Faneuil Hall, and I used to live in Boston. I used to cover the Bruins when I lived in New Hampshire. So I know what that atmosphere is like on a big Bruins game day. I covered the Bruins in 2013 when they went to the Cup final. So I know what that's like. And I'm just saying, God, I wish I was going to the game. That being said, my tush will be on the couch at 7 o'clock tonight. I want to see the anthem. I hope we don't boo their anthem, which I'll get into in a little bit. I hope we don't boo their anthem. But I am excited for the game. This is the game of the year, as far as I'm concerned, hockey, because the Predators stink and there's not going to be a playoff. So this is the game. And there is a lot of pride on the line. And I'm picking Canada. I am picking Canada tonight. But I'm not picking Canada lightly. Some of you think, oh, Jared, he's just doing that to go against the grain, because clearly I would say 95% of my listening audience is probably rooting for the USA. So it's like, oh, he's just antagonizing the listeners for what he doesn't really think that he does. No, I'm picking Canada in what I think will be a very, very close matchup. But here's the way I look at it. Team USA physically dominated Canada Saturday night at the Bell Center. That's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to be the same game. And one thing I have noticed about the playoffs in the NHL is it feels like the team that wins game one almost always comes out flat in game two. The only time that a team wins game one and then wins game two is when that team is still scared to death about letting the other team back in the series. In 2017, the Predators won game one in Chicago, and Pekka stole it. And in game two, for like the first 5 minutes, Chicago put an onslaught of pucks on the net. And the Predators ended up scoring. And you could tell they looked at this and said, okay, if we can win game two and go up 2-0 Chicago, we can win this series. So they played desperate even though they had won game one. I don't know if Team USA will play with the same level of desperation against Canada tonight because they already beat them. But I do think Canada will play with that level of desperation. Number two, Canada is getting Cale Makar back in the lineup. And Team USA is going to be without Charlie McAvoy. Edge Canada. Now, I still think the United States might have a better defense overall than Canada because, I mean, I love the fact that we have defensive defensemen out there. Like Jacob Slavin of Carolina, he's a defensive defenseman. And, I mean, I was really hoping that guy I had never heard of, Ian Sanderson or whatever.
Jake Sanderson.
From Ottawa. I'd never heard of this guy before. And what's the rule, Ian? If I don't know who somebody is,
you think they stink.
They suck. So I've never heard of this Jake Sanderson, but apparently Team USA brought Brett Pesce around and they wanted just to keep Brett Pesce just in case. And I was sitting there saying, please, somebody, Sanderson, get sick so that we can put Brett Pesce on the ice, because I would love the idea of Slavin and Pesce together because they play together in Carolina. So, I mean, Edge Canada, just based off Saturday, add Makar, take away McAvoy, Edge Canada. So that's the first thing. Number two, the high-end forward talent. Edge Canada. Canada has McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby. I mean, they got Brad Marchand on their fourth line. Like, America has Matthews, Kachuk, and Eichel. And, like, I like Eichel, but Eichel is not McKinnon. So I have to go Edge Canada. Coaching, I think, is kind of even. I think John Cooper is a really good coach. Mike Sullivan, won those cups in Pittsburgh, including here. Hasn't won anything since, but I think his roster's a little too old. I still think Sullivan's a good coach. I'll say even on coaching, but if I had to pick one of the two coaches, it would be Cooper. And they also have Peter DeBoer on their staff, and Team USA has John Hines on their staff, and you know how I feel about him. So I'll say even, but I really want to lead Edge Canada.
Needed that John Hines reference in there.
Hey, I'm rooting for John Hines tonight, baby. Let's go, Baldy. Like, let's go, John Hines. I'm rooting for him. I can say that now, right?
I mean, I guess you just did, so.
I don't think Chase will get mad. Again, the one advantage that we have in this game is the goaltending. And that is Connor Hellebuck, who's the best goalie in the world. And just like I'm rooting for John Hines tonight, which I almost never do, I'm rooting for Connor Hellebuck tonight, which I almost never do. It reminds me of when I was 5 years old and Lenny Dykstra of the Philadelphia Phillies was stepping into the batter's box in the All-Star game. And my dad told me this is the only night of the year that we root for the Phillies. Is the All-Star game. This is the only night of the year that we root for Connor Hellebuck. But he is the best goalie on the planet. And Jordan Bennington, who I really, really like and is a good man, is probably an average league starter. And right now he's not having a good year. Maybe it's the emotional hedge when it comes to taking Canada tonight, because maybe I'm trying not to get my hopes up. And again, this USA-Canada rivalry has never meant more to me, given the fact that half my family is Canadian. But I just have to. Every time Team USA's had a big game in my lifetime against Canada, and yes, I was alive in 1996, but I didn't watch hockey back then. But I'm talking 2002, 2010, 2014. Every time there's been a big USA-Canada hockey moment, Canada has won. And it doesn't matter if it's the younger guys or if it's, the pros playing in the Olympics. We did win the World Juniors, which was a positive, but who cares about that? I just can't pick against Canada tonight. They're too good. They have too many good players. So I'm taking Canada. 615-737-1025. Your thoughts on tonight's big game. And I do wonder, how many of you don't actually like hockey, but will be watching tonight because USA? And there's something that I am so disappointed by in tonight's game that I want to get to, and your phones will do it next. Stillman and Company, 102.5 The Game.
When that game ended and you guys start taking stock of everybody talking about it, especially in comparison to the way people negatively reacted to the NBA's All-Star game, walk me through the way you guys processed the success off of that game in this tournament.
Well, in terms of my thinking, the NBA doesn't enter the equation. I worry about what we're doing and how well what we're doing is received. We immediately, I heard from my people who monitor social media that we were the number one trending thing worldwide. It's 12 seconds into the game. But what was clear is, and you had seen it in the preliminary games as well, our players were playing to play. Hockey players are like that, even if they're playing shinny on a pond. They love playing the game. They love going all out. And again, this ability to now again represent their countries. And remember, the teams are incredibly stocked with the world's best hockey players from those countries. Obviously, we had some players among the best in the world whose countries weren't yet participating for a whole host of reasons, logistics and other political things beyond our control. But we knew right on that this was going to be something that was going to demonstrate hockey in an extremely positive and entertaining light.
That was Gary Bettman. The Four Nations has been an unmitigated success for hockey. But I have a stick up my rear end about the fact that this game is not on ABC tonight, and it should be. So my estimation is I think they're going to get 6 million viewers for tonight's game. That would not be better than Game 7 of the Cup Final last year, which got 7.6. But Game 7 of the Cup Final was on ABC. And again, Saturday's game, which got 4.5 million viewers, was on ABC. So I have to get on ABC and ESPN, who own the rights and the A package, like the premier package to the NHL. Why is this game not on ABC? My estimation, if this game was on ABC and not ESPN cable, would be 9 million viewers, which would break all kinds of records, and it would be, the best, most watched hockey game since whenever. I want to say the gold medal game in 2010 on NBC did 10 million viewers. I think this could get 9 million. And again, the quality of the game will matter. If this is like the Super Bowl, that'll be a huge loss for hockey. But if this is like Game 7 of the Cup Final, it'll get a huge rating. Again, I think it'll get 6 million because it's on cable. That's bad for hockey. And that's bad because, again, they own the rights. I think this is bad for ABC and ESPN. The NFL wants most of the Monday night package simulcast on ABC. Why? Because it gets the highest ratings possible. And then when the NFL goes to sell their TV packages, they can say, we have however many million watching the game. Remember, we had a guy on at the Super Bowl, Ryan Glasspiegel, who is kind of a media insider for Front Office Sports, came on our show at the Super Bowl. And he said that Joe Buck and Troy Aikman, who make $15 million a year each, so $30 million between Aikman and Buck, I could call the game and people would watch. That it is important that they pay for themselves because the NFL prefers Aikman and Buck to the bozos ESPN was throwing out there. Remember Booger McFarland and his little sideline mobile? So ESPN said, okay, we got to do away with these JV announcers. We need to go out and get some real broadcasters. They paid for Aikman and Buck, and now the NFL gives them better games. And the difference between a good game on Monday Night Football and a bad game on Monday Night Football, and those viewers alone equal more than Buck and Aikman's salary. So if you're ESPN and ABC and you have the rights to the biggest game in town, this is the biggest hockey game of the year in this country, why would you not put the game on ABC? Again, all I'm told is the ratings for basketball keep getting worse and worse and worse. And yet the money keeps going up and up and up and up because they say live sports are so important. Well, here are live sports. Here is this made up, finagled nothing that didn't exist 8 months ago. And it's going to get, again, I think it's going to get $9 million if it was on ABC. Like, that is anything that is not the NFL, that is a good number. Like, maybe not a good number for a World Series game, which is more in the 12 and 13 million range. But again, this is hockey we're talking about. If you get close to the World Series, like, that's pretty good. So here's what Channel 2 will be running, according to a Google search I did earlier today. And I mean no disrespect to Channel 2. This is not Channel 2's call. I bet you if Channel 2 had the call, Channel 2 would say, give us the hockey game tonight. Here's what Channel 2 will have on TV. At 7 o'clock, News 2 at 6 p.m., local news coverage. At 7:30, Wheel of Fortune, National Geographic, Lindbald Expeditions.
That's 6:30 local.
Okay. Oh, why are they giving it to me?
I don't know, but looking at the guide here, it says 6:30.
I was trying to wonder out why it was News 2 at 6 p.m. was
Yeah.
on at 7, but I figured maybe they didn't have anything, so they just
whatever.
rerun the news.
Yeah.
So, again,
Just for
okay,
clarification.
so 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
News, Wheel of Fortune, which would have been on anyways. 8 o'clock, Extreme Makeover, Home Edition, Banner MD Anderson Part 2. The opening of the Wellness Center at Banner MD Anderson Cancer Center in Gilbert, Arizona. A couple facing a dual cancer diagnosis moves into their residence while receiving treatment. Wow! That sounds interesting. And then at 8 o'clock, they have Scamanda Stage 4, Catch Me If You Cancer. As friends and supporters get letters from the Department of Justice, Amanda continues to insist that she has cancer. When charges are filed, Amanda has her day in court. What the hell is that? I mean, why are we not putting hockey on ABC? We're hurting the sport of hockey by doing this. And here's why I guess I care. Because I do wonder if there are some of you out there that are like, who cares? Jared, you have ESPN. You have ABC. Why do you care? Here's why I care. I find the NHL to be so enjoyable. I think it's a great league. Now, am I going to just watch like a random run-of-the-mill NHL game? You know, when they have these random Saturday games where the New York Rangers will take on the Boston Bruins? No, I'm not going to watch that. But I do find hockey to be fun. I do watch the playoffs. I do enjoy it, especially when my team's involved, but I do enjoy the sport. I think hockey is a great game. I think the star players are so much fun to watch, like McKinnon and McDavid and McCarr. You know, I've got tickets at the Predators that are like 10 rows off the ice to the side of the goal at the Preds shootout twice. So when they played Edmonton, my girlfriend's sister and her friends came in town, and I put them up, you know, in a decent section. Ian probably knows what section I put them up in. I put them up in a decent section. You can back me up. That's a decent section.
Yes.
So I put them up there, and they were like, well, why don't you want to be up here? Why do you want to be down there in like the regular seats? And it's like, because I want to see Draisaitl and McDavid up close and personal because I think it's so much fun to watch. I love this game. I understand it is a niche sport. It is fourth by far in America, even with that crappy NBA. And I think some of it is because for a while, you know, a lot of our parents like didn't grow up with teams in their areas or didn't have teams that were any good. But on a night like tonight, the entire country, Topeka, Kansas, can root for the United States of America. Houston, Texas, which I'm sure doesn't care at all about the NHL, can root for USA. And they're putting the game on cable? And I just think it's dumb for ESPN and ABC, who have the rights to the league. The more people in Houston, Texas, if you can rope one person in to care about the NHL in Houston, Texas. If you can rope one person in and then they'll watch your playoffs, that's good for the sport, right? And that's good for ABC and ESPN.
Is this
Again, they have the rights.
Is this a matchup worth like them trying to, finagle a few extra subscribers?
I don't think so. The college football playoff has to go on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
And I know they aired the expanded playoffs a little different with some games on TNT. But like when it was the 4 and the championship game and kind of the BCS games, the New Year's Six Bowls, they're all on ESPN. They're not on ABC. And the reason that is because, to your point, Ian, when ESPN negotiates their very high fees with the cable companies, they say, hey, we've got Sunday night baseball, we've got Monday night football, we've got the college football playoff. This is why you have to carry ESPN. No cable provider is paying the $6 a month or whatever it is, the huge fees to ESPN for Stephen A. Smith. They're not doing it. But they're doing it for the games.
Was this maybe considered the NHL All-Star situation where maybe it has to be on ESPN, even though it's not the All-Star game? Again,
Gary Bettman can change that. Gary Bettman and ESPN can finagle that, I think. I'm just sad because I think tonight's going to be a great number. And I really would enjoy them being able to brag about imagine if this is one of those great games, like an overtime kind of game or something like that. And USA wins and it gets 11 million viewers or it gets that's a massive number. When you're talking NBA finals type ratings, that's a massive bragging point for hockey. And they have no shot at 11 or 12 million viewers on cable. And I just think it's dumb. I just think it's dumb for hockey, and I think it's dumb for ABC and ESPN. All right, your phones. 615-737-1025. Stillman & Company, 1025-1063 The Game.
let's remind viewers of the historical opportunity for Team USA here. They've not won a best-on-best event since the 1996 World Cup. It's been a long time between Olympics and World Cups where Team USA has not come out on top. And you may remember that the last time they beat Canada before this event was at the Vancouver Olympics in round robin. No one remembers that because the ultimate game was a gold medal game where Canada prevailed. Team USA was pretty darn excited Saturday night after beating Team Canada. Matthew Tkachuk called it, next to winning the Stanley Cup, one of the greatest hockey moments of his career. I want to see if Team USA has parked this and they're ready for this game here. Otherwise, we'll just remember the 3 fights in 9 seconds when it comes to Team USA.
Do you know who that was, folks? That was Pierre LeBlanc ahead of tonight's big game between Canada and the United States. So I guarantee you, I was going to say ABC, but the game's not on ABC. It's on ESPN. I guarantee you ESPN will have the anthem volume at as high as it could be. Like, they will not forgo the national anthems tonight on TV. Sometimes they do the national anthem. You don't even know about it when you're watching on TV. Not tonight. Tonight, they will make sure to show it because I think a lot of people are wondering, after the Canadians booed the American anthem, and again, that's a political issue, whether it's with the president, whether it's with tariffs, whether it's with, that's a business for Fox News and not for the Jared Show. But they booed. And Team USA didn't like it. Matthew Tkachuk said, I don't like it, and I'll leave it at that. And I believe that the reason that Matthew Tkachuk and Brady Tkachuk dropped the gloves to start the game was because of that. Those people are going to boo our anthem. We'll show them. And I think that that fired them up. So now the game's on your soil. Now you've got, as the old man used to say, Ian, home field ice. Now it's up to you. I beg the people of Boston or whoever's going to this game, do not boo the Canadian anthem. And I'm not saying that because I find it offensive to boo anthems. I'm not offended by Canadians booing our national anthem. In fact, I actually think it could be something that if everybody could take it in jest, could actually be kind of fun. Like when they do the starting lineups and they're like, starting in left wing, number 29, Nathan MacKinnon. Sucks! Like, it's not like a personal attack on Nathan MacKinnon. But not everybody can take a joke. And the anthem people take very personally, and I understand that. So I got it. But I'm saying don't boo their anthem. Not because my son is half Canadian. I don't care about that. Not because I think Oh Canada is a terrific song. Like when I go to the Predators and they're playing Vancouver or Ottawa or Winnipeg or Toronto or Montreal or whomever, I get excited to sing Oh Canada because I think it's a great song. But I'm not saying don't boo it because of that. I'm saying don't boo it because I don't want to give Connor McDavid or Sidney Crosby, who might be playing his last international game ever, or Nathan MacKinnon, or Brad Marchand, or any of these guys, any extra firepower, any extra motivation for tonight's game. That's why I hope they don't boo the anthem tonight. Again, some people will say don't boo the anthem because they think that's classless. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't, I don't know. But that's not why I care. Like whether or not we show class, the people of Canada are going to think that we're gluttonous pigs anyways. This is not going to change their minds, whether we boo the anthem or don't boo the anthem. But I don't want to give Canada, who is playing the amount of pride that Canada is going to be playing with tonight. Like for us, if we win, it'll be awesome and it'll be worth celebrating and we'll be happy and it'll be like, wow, are we right there with Canada? And we, but like for Canada, this is all they have. This is it. Our dollar is better than theirs. We have more land than them. Our weather is better. Our GDP is higher. Our stock market is better. Our military is bigger. Every other sport, we're better. This is the one thing they have. They don't beat us in anything else that matters. They don't beat us in basketball. They beat us in baseball one time 20 years ago. That's it. Like, this is what, like,
Are we sure the
this
U.S.
is
is
all
bigger than
they've got.
Canada? Are we sure the U.S. is bigger than Canada?
Like, size-wise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, we have 50 states.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't mean that there's like the size of the countries are bigger.
The United States is so much bigger than Canada. What are you talking about?
I'm
Did you
seeing
go to, like,
Canada's land
elementary school?
area is 3,855,103 square miles, and the U.S. is 3,794.
What's Canada again?
3,855, and Canada or in the U.S. is 3,794.
Well, our population is 10 times bigger. So
I just did a little search. Does the U.S. have more land than Canada? So,
and they say Canada has more land than the United States?
That is correct in terms of land area.
I'm shocked by that.
We just might have to double check. I'm just saying.
Maybe I didn't go to middle school. Phone line driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Let's go to Gary, who is up next. Our phone line's again driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Gary, go ahead.
Canada is going to smash the crap out of the United States. They have no business even being mad that a country that a president wants to take is booing the anthem. If Trudeau was booing our anthem or wanted to take our country, I'm sure you would boo our anthem. So that's stupid. Now you're spreading fake news like Trump telling Canada's smaller than us. They're bigger. Crosby's going to tear them.
Easy on A, the political stuff, and B, I guess I did get it wrong. I guess Canada is bigger in size. Talking about, like, I clearly went out of my way to lie. I didn't know that. I am actually shocked and kind of embarrassed. I am actually shocked and a little embarrassed by that. And then on the political front, like, let me just say this. Thank you for calling, Gary. Let me just say this. Like, we don't do that on this program. And I take that very seriously. But the geopolitical actions of the United States recently is not helping us win tonight. I mean, like, again, I don't know what it means. Like, from a standpoint of the long-term relationships that we have as a country, I have no idea. But it's certainly not going to help us win tonight. Because I know as well as you do that those guys in Canada's locker room, if they win, are going to kick their feet up with cigars in their mouths, and they're going to say 51st state that. Now, whether or not that's good for markets, good for the economy, good for everyday American life, again, that's for another channel, not this one. But as far as helping us win, I'm not sure that's the case. There are people that have texted the text line saying, good for you, Jared. Thank you for picking Canada. Sincerely, America. Another person texted in and said, Jared, way to go. I mean, I'm so glad you picked Canada because you picked the Chiefs, and look how that turned out. Go USA. The problem is with that is that I did pick Philadelphia. I didn't pick the Chiefs. In fact, I picked Philadelphia to beat the crap out of them. Now, I didn't pick Philadelphia to beat the crap out of them that bad. I believe I picked it 31-17, and I believe it was 42-22 or something like that. But it was pretty close. And I just didn't think that the offensive line of the Chiefs could hold up against the defensive line of the Eagles, and that was essentially what decided the game. One text says, to be fair, most of Canada is uninhabitable. I mean, again, when I look at the map, like on the atlas, the United States is huge, and then there's just Canada right up here. I mean, if you had told me, like, I would have assumed that the land of Texas and California and, I don't know, somewhere else would have been, like, equal to that of Canada.
I think Canada stretches more north than you think.
What is the population of Texas v. Canada? Like, is Canada population-wise behind Texas? I know they're behind California. Are they behind Texas?
I'd have to look it up.
Canada. I mean, this is all they have. Like, this is it. We never lose to them in anything else that matters. This is like they will play tonight like their lives.
Looks like Canada's got Texas by about 10 mil.
That's actually a lot of people. I'm a little surprised by that. Well, if my son is going to be a Canadian citizen, which he is going to be, he's going to be a dual citizen here, then it's good that I know these things. All right, 615-737-1025. One more thought on the game and your phone. Stillman and Company, 1025 again.
Just a thought, if you can, on not having McAvoy available. First of all, not ideal having a guy in the hospital, and what that communication's been like with him, and just losing him, considering how good he was against Canada there.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, Charlie, he's a terrific hockey player, and he's a big part of this team. He's played extremely well through this tournament. When you lose players of that caliber, they're not easy to replace. You know, I know from a personal standpoint what this tournament meant to him, and how much he was looking forward to playing in this. So, having said that, we have capable people. You know, we have a lot of depth at all the positions. It's going to provide opportunities for others to step up.
Nope, don't like it. Charlie McAvoy out. By the way, I think this is so screwed up. So apparently the Boston Bruins are mad at the way Team USA and the Minnesota medical staff handled this Charlie McAvoy injury. And the Bruins feel like they weren't consulted on the McAvoy injury after the Finland game. Ian, do you know who Boston's general manager is?
He's the GM of Team Canada. I do know that.
Yes. So Canada's GM, Don Sweeney, is also the Bruins GM. So Team USA probably didn't tell the Bruins about McAvoy's injury because, again, they're about to play Team Canada, and McAvoy's going to try to play through it Saturday night. And now the Bruins are mad. Am I the only one that thinks maybe we shouldn't have current general managers be the general managers of these teams? Like, shouldn't Team Canada just have their own GM whose job is to run Canada, and then he can talk to the other 32 general managers? And Team USA should just have one general manager? I'm fine with the coaches. I don't care about that. But, like, isn't there kind of a conflict of interest here? This isn't exactly the Pro Bowl. Like, this is competitive stuff. But make of that what you will. Let's go to George, who's up next here on the program. George, thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Hey, no worries, Jared. Listen, I've called a few times. You may remember I'm a diehard Eagle fan, so I remember distinctly. I got to back you. Not only did you pick the Eagles to win the Super Bowl, if I remember correctly, you picked the Eagles to win in a blowout, which is exactly what happened. But that notwithstanding, the reason I called, hockey game tonight, I disagree a little bit. I want to boo their anthem. I want the Canadians to boo our anthem, not for political reasons, just because it's fun. I hope they drop the gloves in the first 3 minutes, and then let's get to some hockey. And let's watch the USA beat the crap out of the Canadians. Let's go. See you.
Yep, thank you for the call. So, again, I don't care. Like, I would love to be able to boo their anthem and it be kind of like a sports thing. Like, you come into our building, we boo your anthem. I would like that to be a sporty thing. But, again, too many people take the anthem too seriously, so I have to just say, okay, like, just let's just, support each other's anthems. In the spirit of sportsmanship and these nations, we ask that everybody please do not boo the anthem. Thank you. I mean, it's ridiculous. But again, like this idea of like, I want to see fights. I want to see us take it to them. I want to see us. Yeah, in a perfect world, I love all that. But Canada's going to punch back. Pierre brought this up in that cut we played where he was like, America won it against Canada in the round robin in 2010 too. And nobody remembers it because they lost in overtime in the gold medal game. Trey is up next on our program. Trey, thank you for calling and thank you for waiting. Go ahead.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Good. Go.
Hey, Jared. Hey, I just want to know, why, you called, like you say, like you said, Philly was going to win, but you was like, well, if Philly doesn't win, it's because of it's like you're going to hit on either whatever you say. You know what I'm saying? And why do you
I don't know what you're saying. What do you mean?
You're hitting at 50% for games that you call. Like every game that you call, you don't hit.
Yes.
So I was wondering, why do you think Sam Darnold will be a good fit here in Tennessee?
Thank you for your call, Trey. Ian, did I not hit exactly at 50% for the entire football season?
Six-pack picks, yes, it was exactly 50% this year.
Like, it was like 82, 82, and 4.
It was like, 54, 54, and 2 or something like that.
You could not have been more even than I was this year in picking games. So there is something to that. That being said, my gut tells me Canada wins tonight. You know what, Ian? Let's treat this as the deciding factor for whether or not we had a good football season picking or a bad football season. I'll take Canada tonight. Canada 4-2 tonight. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope we can celebrate a USA victory. Meanwhile, Penalty Box Radio follows us, Stillman and Company. We will see everybody tomorrow at 2.